So I like odd news.
Okay.
So I found a news story that reminded me of you
Okay.
on UPI.com.
UPI.
Yeah. A Chinese man regurgitates a stream of water.
Wait, I remind you of a Chinese man?
No, you're... Well, yeah, I got to
go
finish
ahead,
the
just go
state.
ahead.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. A Chinese man
Yep.
regurgitates a stream of water for nearly 6 minutes.
He peed out of his mouth?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to say peeing, I think they said regurgitating. But a man drank, they keep saying Chinese man. I don't know if
Why does
that's
that
specific.
matter?
Yeah, I don't know if it's specific to the thing.
Yeah.
Drank 1.1 gallons of water, brought it back up to serve as a human fountain for a record-breaking 5 minutes and 51.88 seconds.
So fucking disgusting.
Ma Huai, 35.
My why?
That's how I'm reading it. Downed the water and used his muscle control to regurgitate the liquid and spray a stream of water from his mouth to more than sextuple Ethiopian male Caribbean Yilma's record of 56.36 seconds. Guinness World Records was there to confirm it was the longest time to spray water from the mouth category. So here's my question. Would you rather have this gentleman spray you in the face with regurgitated mouth water for more than a minute or watch The Big Bang Theory?
This is the first time I'm actually considering the Big Bang Theory, but no, I'll take the fucking fountain.
Welcome to Radical Apathy, the podcast where two half-wits set out to solve all the world's problems with pop culture references and a lackadaisical attitude. Why not? It's worked so far.
And welcome to Radical Apathy. My name is Tanner.
Radical Apathy.
Yep.
Radical
Apathy.
Apathy.
Just do one at a time. Ready?
Radical.
No, but we'll do it like the beats.
I don't know what we're doing.
Wow, you guys are so amateur.
Yeah. Hi, welcome
It's
to Radical
almost like this isn't a professional podcast.
You know what?
Almost.
It's not. Are you saying we're not getting paid?
Oh yeah, that's.
We are going to pay you, just not in proper monies.
Oh. Well, now I'm intrigued.
Well, that's how it starts.
That's.
And you, my
Corbin.
there it is. Hey, there it is. Hi, Corbin. My name's Tanner.
Hi.
Welcome to Radical Apathy. We are the
Nice to
bi-fortnightly podcast, and we bring in a lot of friendly people. And today is no different. We have a guest.
We have a guest.
Hello, guest.
Hello, I'm friendly.
You are a very friendly guest.
Oh, that's nice.
Very
Guest, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
I'm Brent. Who am I? I'm me. I'm a friend. We met through theater,
Yes.
Yeah,
working on a show.
that's true.
Are we naming that show?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah, I
Okay.
think we talked about Toxic Avenger already.
Yeah, we have talked.
Yeah.
about
Okay. So
Yeah.
we met on Toxie,
Yeah.
Toxic Avenger.
Which sounds silly. For those
It is.
uninitiated,
It is
sounds
genuinely silly.
but it's
was.
awesome.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
It was a fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was, very quickly, we'll get into the depth of stuff down the road, but very quickly, what was your role in that show?
I was a set builder. And
good one, too.
just set
Damn
builder.
good
I
one.
didn't do
I don't know if I'd say just.
well, I didn't do any special effects or anything. Like for Evil Dead, I did literally buckets of blood.
And you were handsy.
Yes, that's
Is that
right.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a cameo as a severed hand, which was pretty exciting.
Some might say the lead in The Evil Dead.
Yes, Tony Hansa.
Yeah. Right, Corbin?
Yeah.
You look confused.
Well, I was thinking something that I was like, man, I'm thinking this, but should I say it out loud? And I was like, I probably should.
okay. Well, fair enough.
Okay.
It's within the first
Something
minute.
to do with severed hands.
Something to
that he
do
couldn't
with
say
Toxic
out loud.
Avenger or Evil Dead. You know what? Fuck it. If we were in Evil Dead, I think it would be a little bit better.
Because the sets would be better, or because the act? Like, which are you going after, Brent? Or are you going after the actors?
He's already peak performance.
Okay.
If me and you were in Evil Dead,
Yeah.
I mean, come
It's
on.
all downhill for
it'd be
me.
pretty good.
Well, let's ask the person who was in it.
Okay. Well, listen, you've seen both performances.
Yeah.
And we can judge
I didn't
here.
know
You
we
can
were
hurt
going
our
to go
feelings. It's fine.
right into pumping our tires, but I like
Let's
it.
pump our tires.
Yeah.
So, how do you think we would have done if we were characters in Evil Dead, and who do you think we would each be in that?
Well, I don't think either of you would have been a great necessarily Ash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think both of you would have been really great as the other two roles. So Jake, the
buddy?
the
Or the fall around
the guy they discover who's fixing his car, and he comes in and he's got a big accent
Yeah.
and so on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that Johnny Poco played.
Yeah.
And then Scotty,
the best friend.
the best friend.
best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you both would have been great Scotties.
I think you'd be really good at a supporting actor role.
I think you were always the bridesmaid.
No.
Well, I mean, I just don't think neither of you guys look like Ashes.
Do you have
True.
to look like Ash to knock it out of the park, though?
I think you do.
There's a certain cachet that comes with Evil Dead that
I guess you gotta look
need
like 'em.
someone who looks a little bit like.
Yeah, and I got no hair.
No.
And you
Like
got
you couldn't have
blonde
played Toxie because Toxie needs to be a monster.
I could have played.
gross
I could have
man.
played
Exactly.
Melvin. In fact, you should have made me play Melvin, and then swapped out the other guy for. Then he comes in. He's just Monster Man.
Yeah.
Or you could have played Melvin. I could have
I
played
liked how he
Melvin.
played Melvin though.
He did play Melvin.
I mean, he's super gross and a terrible human, but like as an actor, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
terrible human.
We're gonna get more into this, but I want to bring something up today.
Go.
I went to one of the local home kind of depot, Lowe's-esque, Rona type of things.
Home hardware.
Home Despot.
Yeah, home despoteries. And by the way, Brent, I don't want to surprise you. We do have paparazzi that come in every once in a while. If you do see someone randomly taking your photograph or doing anything at all,
Right, yeah.
just ignore them.
Yeah,
it is
that's not a real thing.
No, it's a homeless person we hired off the street to come
Yeah.
in and photograph us.
Looks like one too.
Yeah.
They do really good work. So just ignore them.
Yeah. All right.
I went in there, and as I walked in the front door, there was an elderly lady, probably 1,000 years old, and she was trying to open up a small plastic footstool right at the front door because they were stacked on top of each other.
How old?
Like 1,000 years old.
Okay.
And she's trying to open them up and break one apart to take one away. And being a polite gentleman, I walked in and said, "Oh, ma'am, can I help you with that?" And she said something like, which is the most I can get out of her.
Yeah.
So I took them and tried to take them apart, but they were so stuck together, I failed immediately. So now this
And
old
she
lady
looked at you and said,
"Yep. Yeah, and she did, and it was snotty like that too. Like she would have done any better. So she's staring at me. I can see the large lady. I'm trying to think of a polite way to say it. The large
Well,
lady
you've already said it.
who works
I mean,
there.
corpulent.
Just ooh. That's a
Corpulent.
smart way to say it.
Yes.
Staring at me
Robust.
from inside, not helping the employee, and my wife watching me fail. So finally, I another gentleman walks in, and I say, "Hey, man, can you help me because I'm failing here?" And he helps me, and we both have to work for it. But look at that! I cut my hand to shit.
Let's see.
Wow.
Trying to pull this thing apart.
Is that where that came from?
That is
Yeah,
It's
and then this is a cut in here. Yeah,
a grievous injury.
guys, like I gave my body to
These were
the public
chairs.
today.
What were they? The chair. What
Like
was
just
it?
small plastic like footstools, like that you put on like a deck, like crappy like $8 ones.
And you got beat by these.
Beat.
That's
like
awesome.
defeated.
I got an old person thing.
Oh, just in general.
Yeah, well, you were talking about an old person, so I thought I had the displeasure of going to. We shoot the shit for a little bit there, Brent.
Right,
Before we start.
okay, yeah. No, that's
I
all
had
right.
the displeasure of going to.
You can talk.
You can. I'll chip in. Oh, absolutely. To the local Chinese food buffet twice in the last week and a half.
Like since our last recording.
2 birthdays, 2 Chinese food buffets since I've seen you last.
Should we say my condolences?
Well, first off, Chinese food is way less awesome the older you get. Like it used to be when you were a kid. It was amazing.
True that, yeah.
The worst thing, it may be in the entire world for me, is being behind the incredibly old person in the buffet line. It's painful, and I don't know if you've met me before today, but I have a really tough time withholding my like facial expressions and my grunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But luckily they couldn't hear me. But
If they had the hearing aid
if they had it cranked,
down,
I would have been busted.
Was she going, or was one at a time?
They look
or,
at, well, it's not that. It's that they look at everything
They
separately,
ponder
and then they
whether-
think about the decision. And they're, you know what I mean? They're actually like, should I or shouldn't I? And where's this going to go for my day?
because they I think that's a general question for them.
If you're saying, Chinese food gets old the older you get, imagine what Chinese food, this person trying to think of something they could actually have that wouldn't give them acid reflux
But
attack.
why show up if
Fair
that's what
enough.
happens?
Well,
Because they miss Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima?
What?
What? Sorry. I thought I was with smart people as a history joke, but our listeners will get it. They're pretty smart.
Iwo Jima's Japanese.
Not Chinese.
Yeah, okay. Well, you guys don't have to be racist about it. Japanese people can have Chinese food shops, too. I don't know why we're being weird about it.
Okay, did we talk about Dune last time? You've seen Dune yet?
I've seen Dune, not Dune 2.
I want to talk about Dune 2 so badly. Okay,
This
we
is
can't
his
talk
whole
about
identity
it.
now.
We can't talk about it. It's yeah. All right.
I've heard it's good,
yeah.
but please, I mean, you could say no spoilers, but I've read all the books, so no spoilers.
It's
doesn't really mean much to me.
much closer to the book.
Can you break a tie for us?
Sure.
What is the better Star Trek movie?
Of the original series
Wrath of
movies.
Khan
Yeah.
or The Undiscovered Country?
I'm not sure what criteria I'm going to use. Like, which is campier?
Which
Which one do you enjoy more?
Which one's the one you're like, I could eat that again?
Yeah.
You know?
Wrath of Khan is fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Tanner's so great. Corbyn's a stupid butthead.
You know what? I was thinking about this, and Ricardo Montalban. You're like, it's Ricardo Montalban, and I'm like, nobody gives a fuck about Ricardo Montalban.
Shut your dirty mouth.
He's been in 2 things, 3 things,
And the best
no,
one
2
was-
things:
was Wrath
Star
of Khan.
Trek and The Naked Gun, and that's it.
How about an
Fantasy
entire
Island. Fantasy Island.
series?
Yeah.
Have you seen The Love Boat?
No, Fantasy Island.
Fantasy
Love
Island.
You don't even know. See, you don't even know.
Or he also did a lot of Family Guys.
Did he?
Yeah.
He was also
played a cow, I think.
Oh, what was he? He was in that Samurai Jack, Senior.
Oh,
He played the voice of Senior.
See,
Senior.
look how silly
We
you look
well
right now.
ver-
Look at the egg on your
And
face,
in any
Corbin.
case, it's not the quantity; it's the quality.
yeah. And quality
matters.
is the undiscovered country. Doesn't matter.
As
Neither
you
here nor
wish.
there.
Yeah,
Listen.
all right.
Anything else fun that happened to you guys this week before we start?
I wouldn't say fun. I'm at the end of the semester and doing a butt ton of markings.
Tell us what you do really quick, so everyone knows what you're talking about.
Oh, well, I'm a prof at local U. I
Okay.
teach Spanish.
Spanish.
And it's not even that my classes are huge. It's just a lot of marking.
How many people in your class?
Like one is incredibly tiny.
Okay.
7 students.
Really?
And then the other one, I have a total of 14.
Okay.
So they're they're quite small. Like I have a friend, I just invigilated his exam for him. Vigilate is watch over.
Oh, I was going to say,
make
Jesus,
sure they-
that's
say,
something. You know, Batman on the
Well,
exam.
Easy, professor.
Well, it's like the Terminator, the invigilator. He stands over you and makes sure you don't cheat or he'll rip your arm off. But anyway, there was he had 100 students in that class. I'm like,
Holy
oh.
shit.
That's too many students.
Mind you, he does multiple choice exams, so that's
That's. I think you have to do multiple choice
kind
exams
of
at that
Can you
point.
imagine, marking an essay from each one of those 100 students?
What does the test look like for? Am I getting into the questions too early?
We'll get
back.
there.
We'll
We'll
get
get there.
So, anyways,
I'm making notes of what that is, but we will get there.
Okay, we do have 2 questions that I like to ask every guest. Should we
We'll
start
get
there?
there.
Okay,
No,
okay,
we
we'll get there.
get
Okay,
the
okay.
line.
Sorry. Okay.
Do we have a format?
Yeah.
People come for the format.
Yeah, format people.
stay for the show.
I'm so excited to have Brent on. I
I know.
help it.
It's we've been. It's pretty exciting.
We've been talking about this since our first episode, having Brent on.
We literally have brought up our this is our every time we talked about our D&D master friends or our smart. We talked about the set pillar too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You come up.
You come up a lot.
In the we brought up the multiverse last time.
Yeah.
We were the first. So we were the first form of media
Ever.
This is a term
Ever
I coined
in the history.
multiverse.
Yeah,
So we went on a colleague's podcast last week.
Okay.
And they came in on ours. And so that merger. Ooh. Yeah. So we're calling that a multiverse. First time it's ever happened in media.
First time it's ever been said.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you're like
Wow,
you're
that
like
is
our
revolutionary.
First
who'd it be?
post. You're like in.
We've been dropping hints at him.
You're
Like he's like our Thanos.
He's in phase 2.
but he's not the bad one. He's like our Thanos. We've been dropping Thanos hints through our first phase.
Something like good Thanos?
Yeah,
Good
good
Thanos.
Thanos.
Okay.
We'll call you.
I like that.
Call you Banos.
That's very witty.
Thank you.
It wasn't really.
I went to community college. This should be fun. We do ask a question to the table at this
okay.
time, and it's what are you playing right now? What are you playing?
Well, so I am not a video game person.
Okay.
But I am playing several tabletop war games. So
Go on.
I sort of have over the last few years been playing a lot of. I used to play a lot of role playing games like D&D. We'll
Yep.
probably get into that. But lately, last 5 years or so, 5 to 10 years, I've been playing tabletop miniature games. So not 40K, but these are more historical games like World War II, Samurai era, medieval,
Flames of War.
Napoleonic, Flames of War, which
Yeah.
is World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I know stuff.
yeah. That's I've sort of, and I have this now. My wife and I bought this place a year ago that has a big, huge garage,
Big
heated garage. It's
Yeah.
big, like 35 feet by
Yeah, for
25
sure.
feet. And I've got tables set up in there, and then every Friday night, guys come over and we play games together. So it's a lot of fun.
I've watched it. Have you been invited, Corbin?
I've never been invited.
Okay.
That's not true. He did invite me, but we did.
Oh.
It was like, hey, you should come, and then we never followed up.
I see.
Because I don't know what I would show
But
up
you
and be
play,
like,
no,
"I
you.
don't
But
know."
out of the two of us, I'm still stuck in the tabletop RPG world. But you do play.
I've done
the war
miniatures.
games.
I do miniatures. Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
I
Definitely
did some
come out.
X-Wing,
Both of you should come
and I
out.
did some
And
Hero
even if you
Clips.
just come out and watch.
Yeah.
Because actually, most of these games are. If you've played any kind of game, even a board game,
The principles are the same.
the principles are the same.
Yeah.
You're rolling dice. You have sort of modifiers or something.
Yeah.
In order to you're trying to do a thing, so you roll the dice, and you may do well. Or anyway, so the answer to the question, which was, what are you playing?
Yeah.
We're actually right now not playing. So that would be making. So
Oh.
wargaming involves a crafting element, right? Where you actually have to
Build
together
your
these-
team.
Yeah, build your
Yeah.
little miniatures on little.
Find synergies with your units and whatnot.
Yeah, and build lists so that you can play. So
Yeah.
let's say you're playing a Napoleonic French or something like that. You have to decide how much infantry and the quality of the infantry and cavalry and all these kinds of things and how do they work together and that sort of thing. And right now we're working on building something for Vietnam. So it's Flames of War based, the same core mechanic as Flames of War, which is a World War II game. But this is applied to Vietnam.
Right.
So
Whom amongst your group would play Mel Gibson?
He wasn't in World War II, was he?
He was in Vietnam.
Was he in Vietnam? What movie?
Yeah.
What movie? Or did he actually just was there
We
for
were
real?
soldiers.
We were soldiers? That's right. I remember that movie.
right.
Yeah, he's the
It's weird that
helicopter
you-
stops.
so-
It's weird you go there and not to Apocalypse Now or something.
because I'm not part of the zeitgeist. I stand out and I'm my own person, Corbin.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were soldiers.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, well, I'm not actually playing on the American side. I'm playing the North Vietnamese.
What was the guy's name?
and the local
Son
forces.
of a bitch.
He played
Cong.
He played the same colonel in the Vietnam side, and we were soldiers. As he did play the retired Vietnam general who sold opium in American Crime, American Crime Story, American
Air?
Criminal,
American Air? No.
with Denzel.
I don't remember.
when
he
he
was in a
plays-
movie with Denzel?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Do you watch movies, Corbin?
I watch all the movies.
What is going on with you today?
I want to know what that is.
American. Oh man, it'll come back to me. I don't want to Google it though because I hate googling answers.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Anyway,
only
so
went
that's the
to
game I'm
community
playing. Or I'm playing. I play all kinds
So
of games.
because things have all the same core mechanics generally, what sets one above the other for you?
Well, I would say that they all sort of scratch different itches. So like a skirmish game, which doesn't have many figures, could be quite simple. There's a game called Dead by Lead, for example. It's just a cowboy game. And you roll a D6 or a D12.
That's dice.
In this
A
case.
D stands for dice.
Yeah,
to all
yeah,
the
yeah,
others.
yeah. A die- a die 12, a die
It's a 12-sided die.
Die 12.
You flip over a card, like a regular playing card.
Yeah.
And you, let's say you're a good shooter, you have +2 or something like that.
Sure.
So you flip over a 10, and you roll, you roll your D12. You need to get a 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And you roll a 7, and you add your +3 for your shoot. You got a 10,
Oh, okay.
and then you shoot the guy.
Yeah.
Right? There's no save.
How do you know your range?
Your range is determined by the whatever weapon you're using.
Okay.
So if you're using a pistol or a gun
Shotgun.
or whatever,
Yeah.
it's very, very simple game.
Yeah.
And it's just, like popcorn and beers kind of game.
I'm asking a lot of questions now and contributing because I know towards the end when
It's
we
gonna
talk about
disappear.
D&D, it's going to fade into the background.
I'm sitting
That's
quietly
okay.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
If,
But anyway, so that scratches a kind of, just very simple game.
Yeah.
And then there's another game, like say Flames of War, for example,
Yeah.
is quite complex in a sense that, there's a lot of, it's more simulationist, put it that way. So the rules are more complex and they're more tactically interesting. There's a lot more choices to make. We play a game called Battles in the Age of War, which is done at 6mm. The guys are just tiny little men, right? Just hordes of things on the table. So it's very epic looking on the table. And then the rules are very complicated. And it takes a lot longer to play. So it's a bit more like playing Risk.
Okay, yeah.
Dead by Lead might be like playing checkers.
Yeah.
and Battles in the Age of War is like playing Risk. So they're very different games. They're both games you play on the table, but they're very different. They scratch different itches. So
I'll tell you a funny story. It was me and an acquaintance of ours. His name is Paul, and we committed to playing the biggest X-Wing game we possibly could. And we're talking like
and you've explained X-Wing before?
What's that?
You've explained X-Wing?
Yes,
actually
we have.
We have gone
Star
through.
Wars
So
game.
We had 500-point teams or 300-point teams. Like, they were gigantic, right? And
you set aside 2 days
tables.
to play this game?
It took us like an hour to set it up, and we're probably an hour and a half deep into this fucking thing, and we're just pounding away, just having a good time.
Pew, pew, pew.
And one of the workers at the store we were working at walks by and fucking hits the table by accident. Whole thing dead. After
Kablooey.
2.5 hours of setup and play, just like, God damn it.
You just walked away.
We just walked away.
Yeah.
No redo. Just that's it.
No,
End it.
you don't understand. That's a commitment.
It takes a while.
That's a commitment.
We did a huge game once where we did the I built the trench.
That was you who built the trench?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so we did the sort of the trench run from Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was a pretty neat game. But again, that was a long game.
That is
we
long,
had
yeah.
tons of points on the table.
I wish I would have been in there.
But again, a big part of what's fun about war games is that you play them across the table from somebody, right? And so it's kind of like structured play time
Yeah.
where you can have a great time together. It's, and you're competing, you want to win, but in the end, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
You're still having fun regardless.
you're pushing plastic things around on a table and rolling dice.
Yeah.
You can't take that too serious. If you do take that seriously, you have issues.
I took
that
it super seriously when I set out to win the store championship, and I have the plaque upstairs. Just so you know,
Well, I mean,
that you stole from the
that I
winner?
won
Oh.
on my own. I said it was a Star Wars X-wing event.
Yeah.
And I said I'm going to find the shittiest ship, and I'm going to make that win. That was my goal.
Really?
And so I took the Hawk. Remember the Hawk? How
Yeah,
bad that
yeah.
was with the one attack dice?
it looks cool, though.
It looks cool. It was the coolest looking ship, and I took that and I built my team around it, and I won.
Well done.
True story.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you can play seriously in the sense that you really play hard. You're really sort of trying to get all the sort of put all the things working together and so on to make something work. But in the end, there are players out there that are like win at any cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And sort of golden rule of playing a game is don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Right? And there are people out there who for them, they associate identity with winning and losing.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
therefore they're the sort of people who are going to flip the table because if they lose, they feel like they are diminished as a person.
That's how Tanner feels when I have this conversation with him. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just know he's going to flip the table if I don't agree with him. So
It's true.
Some people you just
con's the best.
kid gloves.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what are you guys playing?
What are you playing? Did you switch? Are you still playing Helldivers?
I'm still playing Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Consistently with, speaking of large gross men, Dayton plays a lot with me. Mm-hmm. Still not great at it, but it's a lot of fun to die and lose. In that game, like in tabletop games, when your character dies, like a brand new one comes in, just like
Right.
fodder to the war, so it's kind of fun to play around. And
is that one like where you have multiples playing on the server?
so you have 4 people in your squad, and you go to a map, and you have to complete several different objectives, all the while being onslaughted by either bugs or robots, depending on the map. And it is basically Starship Troopers.
I was just going to say, it sounds like
That's all it is. It is over the top, government loving, all the kind of ridiculous that Starship Troopers is that, but just in a
empty
video game
mags
form.
at
Yes,
bugs.
a lot of fun.
Bugs. It's probably more fun to play against bugs too.
It's the automatons, the robots shoot at you and they're a pain in the ass, but the bugs are fun.
Bugs are fun. Yeah.
The other than that, still a little bit of Dogmas too, but I've changed. It's fun. It's kept me going through an entire fortnight.
I haven't picked up a video game since I last saw you, so technically I'm still playing God of War.
We can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything.
God, we're cool people.
All right. Okay, what are you doing? What do you got going? What were you going to? What were you going to jete your way to?
Well, I want to touch base on the homework you were given, but I think we're going to get into it more
we're gonna do that
through the
after.
questions with Brent. So
Fucking homework.
We give each other homework every episode,
show.
and then we
Okay,
revisit it.
so you don't give me homework.
Sometimes we inform you.
you are going to have to do it.
You
now
are
that
the
you're
homework.
here.
Oh,
You're gonna-
okay.
But the
you're gonna
homework
moderate
wrapped
the
around you.
homework.
So the homework you were given
Yeah.
was in an effort to get into the bits and pieces of Dungeons and Dragons with Brent. We were going to maybe build you a character.
Yeah,
And
I
along those,
have no imagination.
so you had to come up with a name,
So full of shit.
a name, a race, and a class. So that was your homework. So we'll get into that a little later. But that was your homework you were given. So at the very least,
second grade.
Okay, perfect. We'll come back to it. In the meantime, we have to touch on our top 5.
Top 5. Oh, we're going to play sounds. He loves this thing. He loves this thing.
The Sting.
Yeah, you have to. It's how you work.
So we do a top 5 because everyone loves lists.
Yep.
And so we do a top 5 every show.
Yeah.
And so it's Tanner's turn to do a top 5.
Tanner's turn for top 5.
So it's got to be D&D associated, I assumed. You're doing something that's...
I was going to.
Is this a themed podcast? Is this D&D themed?
We're going to focus more on it because I have yet to have a guest that will talk to me as much as I want to talk about it. So
Talk nerdy to you?
yeah.
talk nerdy
You already said a D12, and I was like, oh yeah. D12.
Polyhedrals. You want to hold my polyhedrals?
Oh, we're just getting warmed up. Tanner's top 5.
Top 5.
Is Tanner's top 5 high fantasy movies.
High fantasy movies?
So in share of Dungeons and Dragons, which is a high fantasy world.
Okay.
Top 5 high fantasy movies is what I'm going to pick up. We can all kind of talk about.
Do we just jump in with our...
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna give my top 5 starting at number 5, and you guys jump in and talk about whatever you want. If you hate it, if you like it.
Tell us.
Number 5,
See if I know them all.
1987's The Princess Bride.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvelous stuff. I mean, I guess it's high fantasy. It does have
so, yeah.
magic in it.
Pirate Rogers, magic,
Yeah.
princesses and castles.
fighting.
Applicable for any age. Like, it just hits no matter
Well,
what
you
age
know what?
you're
Did
at.
you guys... so a friend of mine is part of the film series at the university.
Okay.
And the last semester, the last film in the series of each semester is generally like a fun one. You know, there's lots of sort of art house films,
Yeah.
and and it runs at the Movie Mill, local theater. And last semester he did Princess Bride as the last
I like
movie.
it.
So we
Yeah.
saw it at the Movie Mill in the big theater.
Very cool.
And it was packed, and it was so much fun because the audience all knows this.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all like shouting out the lines, "Inconceivable!" and this kind of, it was wonderful. So it really sort of brings whole families together,
It's
right?
a movie that it extracts joy from you.
Yeah.
It's
It injects joy.
Extracts joy.
I can think of a bunch of films that extract joy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. I said extract. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, people
He's
can
a
be
professor.
joyful. I know.
He's a professor.
He caught it on very quickly.
Extrudes joy,
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
like a noodle.
Andre the Giant was great in it too.
Yeah.
like
But
yeah.
Mandy Patinkin.
he said it was the first or only. He was the only form of entertainment he did where he said no one looked at me because of the setting and the characters and how it was. He says he didn't stand out as a weirdo.
Yeah.
And so he says his entire time on that film, nobody looks at me, was his quote.
Yeah.
Because he said he felt he was treated as an equal and no one was staring at him because of his size. And
Just one of the cast,
Yeah.
one of the characters. Yeah.
Yeah, just another dude.
but yeah, Mandy Patinkin. Oh,
Have you seen pictures
Yeah.
of Andre the Giant holding a beer can?
yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Have you seen that picture?
No, but I
It's
can totally
insane.
imagine it.
It's
like a little thimble
It's
between
like
his fingers.
tiny in his hand. It's insane.
There was a moment when they were filming outside, whether in either I don't know if it was Ireland or Scotland, but when they were filming in the hills, and Buttercup actor, Robin Wright. Thank you.
Yeah.
She was out there out in the rain. It started raining, and she was getting cold, and they didn't have the proper stuff set up yet.
literally
So
put his hand
Andrew
over
the
her
Giant
head.
put his hand over her head and blocked the rain from landing on her head.
That's marvelous.
That's sweet.
Number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4. Never-ending story.
Dude.
Quite
1983.
There
nostalgia value.
is there a sadder moment in movies than Artax dying in the swamp?
Yeah.
What was it called? What was
Pretty
that swamp
awful.
called again? It was called the
Swamp of Sadness.
Swamp of
Swamp of Sadness.
something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Tears or that was that came out in 83.
Drew.
Yeah, and
That
to a young,
little young Tanner learned life lessons in the movie.
Yeah, I think there's really, that's absolutely true. There's some real sort of no holds barred,
Yeah. They got dark.
deep sadness in that film.
Deep sadness. You had extreme bullying in that movie. There was like death, like
Yeah.
a kids movie with like real death.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And a scary ass wolf.
and a scary ass wolf.
Like
the
that?
the darkness, or the wolf was in the darkness.
The Nothing is
the Nothing.
Yeah,
The Nothing, which was
the wolf
sort of
wasn't the
oncoming
Nothing, though, was
storm
he?
in a
He was
sense.
the- he was the-
he was sort of a
the
manifest.
like the
precursor
avatar
of it. Yeah, the
of
precursor
Nothing.
of it.
Of the Nothing.
He was the Silver Surfer to the
How
darkness.
scary is
I
that? I'm the
haven't, but I
Nothing.
haven't watched that movie in many years. I think I should go back and watch it because
so cool.
Yeah.
I have very good memories of it. But it's probably been like 20 years since I last saw it. So.
Atreyu.
It's good.
Okay.
Just watch it.
What's the princess's name? Hold on. I'm not moving on until I remember the princess's name. Oh, hold on. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I don't remember. The princess. Ah, shit.
See, Tanner's just
the
about
childlike princess.
Tanner's
Fuck
gonna pretend that he knew this all along.
Yeah, he.
Tammy Stronach.
Yeah, he
The
just Googled
childlike
it, though.
empress is what it is.
It is the childlike empress. Yeah, but
I really should have
Tammy
the name.
Stronach. Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Number 3.
Yeah.
1981's Excalibur.
I've never seen it. I've never seen that one.
Again, this might be a little bit nostalgia baiting for me, but
yeah, I think so. It was, in my memory, quite terrible.
Peak Helen
But
Mirren,
remember, I'm quite a bit older
Young
than you,
Liam Neeson,
so I didn't watch it
Patrick
as a
Stewart.
child.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'm looking at it through a child's glasses.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that movie.
So John Boorman wanted to make Lord of the Rings, but no one was catching base. He couldn't get the rights for it, so he had the story basically half done, and he pivoted it into an Arthurian legend story.
yeah.
But they had like a lot of this, script and set built around it, and then they kind of made Excalibur.
Kids movie?
It's quite, the look is quite dated.
To go back, I haven't watched it. Yeah, I don't
it
think
looks
I can go back.
80s. Yeah. Like some films you can go back and watch them and they are timeless. Mm-hmm. This is not timeless. It's definitely very 80s.
Was it
both in its just the general aesthetic and the costumes and the hair and everything, but also in sort of the way this story's constructed. Mm-hmm. It feels 80s.
Like, so it had all the whole, like, pull the sword out of the stone.
Yeah, Helen Mirren's
stuff.
in full 80s hair. Yeah.
Merlin. Who was that?
Yeah, I don't
Lancelot
even-
who pulls the stone or the sword?
No, it's Arthur.
Arthur.
King Arthur.
Right-wise King of England.
Time out. Can I just say,
Hello.
I was thinking of this movie First Night from like the 90s, and it was Richard Gere, Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, yeah.
And
Sean
I was, and
Connery.
it was all about Lancelot, so that's why I was
Yes,
thinking
and he steals King Arthur's wife.
His name
Yes,
is
he does.
Lancelot. He wears tight pants a lot. He likes to dance a lot and sing.
And
That was a song from Spamalot.
That was from
another
Spamalot.
show we did a while.
See, I thought you liked the Excalibur one, yeah. And number 2, again, a lot of these are nostalgia bait for me.
I've got
Robin
one in
Hood,
my mind that better be on this list.
Robin Hood, Prince of
Robin
Thieves.
Hood, Prince of Thieves.
God, I love that movie. I love that movie.
I do too, and
that
it's-
soundtrack is banging.
Well, yeah,
Banging soundtrack.
I'll agree with you there. Yeah.
It's I don't think it's actually that good of a movie looking
I think
back at
it's
it
an
now,
amazing
but
movie.
like, man, just an unfiltered Alan Rickman who was allowed to do whatever the fuck he wanted just so he'd be in
He's
it.
a top 5
Fair
movie
enough.
villain for me.
And you get the staunch Morgan Freeman, and I don't know. I've just always, it was just very adventurous. It felt like those old 1950 pirate movies,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a swashbuckler
Earl
type
Flynn.
thing.
it was,
Yeah.
it was about
Those
real
really
heroism.
stand up, actually. If you watch some,
They do. They honestly do. If you
like-
go back and watch them, and
Yeah.
It was like real heroism, and
Yeah.
and the kids, like, I've watched them with my son. My son was just elated with this movie. It just brought
Yeah.
joy to him.
it's a lot
awesome.
of it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Wish he had an English accent, but other than that,
I mean-
perfect movie.
He's I don't know why he's done as well as he has in his career, and like either directing and acting.
I just want him to make one. I hope this Western that he made that's coming out that's like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
I hope he's got an English accent.
Who are you talking
in that
about?
for just-
Sorry?
Kevin Costner.
Oh, Kevin Costner. Ugh.
Yeah, no English accent.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know how he's done as well as he's done.
Yeah, I don't know either. just as an actor, as a director.
And then in
Yeah,
that,
it's not-
and then in that
not
Mel
great.
Brooks movie, do you remember that one, Men in Tights?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Carrie Elwes is like,
Yeah.
why are you so good? He's because I, unlike other Robin Hoods, can speak with an English accent. And the crowd's like, oh,
Yeah. Well, he means that one.
oh my god,
Burn.
And number 1, Tanner's top 5 high fantasy is, of course, the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no other answer.
How do we feel about the Hobbit movies?
I feel
I really hated them.
I feel like he got paid a lot of money to get away with a lot of nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so unnecessary.
But I like Morgan. I like
so
Martin Freeman
unnecessary.
so much.
I just wish I do too.
And actually, I liked
fantastic.
in the first movie, the first Hobbit movie.
Yeah.
I really liked the guy who played Thorin Oakenshield. Like I really like
and
that
I really liked the first one, but then when they went off the rails and started adding all kinds of characters, and it was just, I don't know, the Hobbit as a story, right? Even if you keep some things, take some things away, is an encapsulated story.
Perfect
It works
D&D.
really, really well.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no female characters in it in the original book.
Yeah.
But does it have to? I don't know. Was that the problem?
Don't get mad at me.
I don't know.
I never read the book. I never read the book before I watched the Hobbit movies or the Lord of the Rings
a
books
lot of
before I watched
people
Lord of
haven't.
Yeah.
So I was coming in with fresh eyes, but even the fresh eyes, so I'm like, this is really drawn out.
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, this is
and the way they went through so much effort to tie in elements to make it this kind of prequel.
The Lord of the Rings.
I would
to Lord of the
argue the
Rings.
best part of the movies was when they did tie it in with when
I agree that those
Gandalf
elements
went
were
to that castle
those
or
elements
whatever.
were epic.
Yeah.
but they detracted from the central story of the Hobbit.
Of the Hobbit.
Although I will say Smaug was pretty fucking awesome.
He was great.
Yeah,
he was
Benedict,
fantastic. He was exactly
Cumberbatch.
As a confirmed Cumberbatch, I agree with you.
He was really good.
He was
in that.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Martin Freeman. I
excellent
love
with
Martin
everything.
Freeman.
Yeah.
That's Tanner's Top 5 High Fantasy.
Well,
So no
within
Conan
your-
the Barbarian. Interesting.
no.
Well,
I would see now. Conan. I wouldn't say Conan's high fantasy in the way I define it.
Really, Conan is the origin of sword and sorcery. In fact,
yes.
he was. Howard was writing at exactly the same time as Tolkien, and they were co-inventing sword and sorcery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I did have Conan, Conan 2, and Red Sonja all on Betamax growing up.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm familiar and enjoy all three, but it just how I defined this one. I wanted to.
do those movies hold up? I haven't watched a Conan movie in
The subsequent
decades.
ones, no, I don't think so. Conan the Destroyer is kind of fun. It's almost like the first D&D movie
Okay.
because it's group questing.
Yeah.
So it has that kind of.
He's got his little
fun
dagger
element.
thief buddy
and
there.
Grace Jones
Grace
is
Jones
awesome.
is in there. Yeah.
But it's pretty
Campy. Yeah.
right. Whereas the first one is not campy.
Red Sonja is very campy.
I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
You did your top 5.
Yeah.
You gave us your number 1.
Yeah.
I want you to break down the order that you like the Lord of the Rings movies in.
Return of the King, Fellowship, Two Towers.
So wait, do we go 3 to 1 or 1 to 3?
3, 1, 2.
3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
See, and I'm 2.
Yeah.
I'm 2, 1, 3.
And that's the beauty
love two.
of his trilogy, is that no one's wrong because they're all amazing
it's
movies.
just one big story.
And just how whichever little setback of stories
Extended
speaks to you.
versions.
Oh yeah, of
I
course.
love the
Yeah,
extended
of course.
versions.
I think I like them 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
which
Yeah,
again,
that works
look at us.
fine.
We have covered all the bases. Bases
But
is
yeah,
we did it.
It's really, really well done. And they stand up to repeated viewing. The themes are universal and well executed. And I think that in terms of how he chose what elements to keep, it was a writing team, obviously. Fran, what's her name? And one of the chief writers who really maintained that Tolkien-esque style in the dialogue as well. That was so well done.
and I know they even and he said this before in different interviews, but when Peter Jackson said, I'm not making my Lord of the Rings movie, I'm making Tolkien's Lord of the Rings movie, and I'm not picking and choosing how to present what he wanted. We're going to present it, and I know even though he said that, he did add some certain things, but
Well, and he took away some things
threw
like
that shit
Tom
out the window with
Bombadil,
Hobbit.
for example.
Philippa Boyens, is that what we're trying to think of, the writer?
Philippa.
Yes,
Yeah,
Philippa Boyens.
Yeah. Was there not someone named Fran there? Maybe I'm mixing up names, but yeah, you're right. Philippa. She was an excellent dialogue writer. And I think, Jackson, from his horror background, had a sense for hyperbole, like how to exaggerate things, the right things. To give it that sort of epic sense. He had a great, and the sound, the way sound design. I think one of those things in film that is often neglected in terms of when we think about film is sound design, not music, but sound. So when the Witch King, goes to swing his giant morning star.
Yeah. What does that sound like?
The sort of where the chains.
They are called
the chains tightening, and then as he swings it, there's kind of.
I learned what they were called the other day.
They're called Foley artists.
They are called Foley artists. And I watched an interview with a Foley artist, and the interviewer asks her, what is the worst sound that you like when you're watching a movie? You're like, ugh. And she's like, kissing, because it's some old white dude going this to his hand, and she says it's the most disgusting thing, and she gets irks every time she sees it in a movie.
But I think Foley work and you know, things like what you don't hear and what you do hear, you know, whether it's falling rain or traffic, because all of these things are added. Because the actors are mic'd so closely that most of the ambient sound is gone.
Yeah.
Right? In whatever situation they're in. So everything you hear, like, for example, in that scene in Lord of the Rings, you know, where Arwen comes outside of the in Rohan. She comes outside of the castle or the large house. I forget what it's called.
The
hall. Yeah, the hall. And she's standing there, and then the flag rips off the pole, which some people say was an accidental thing. I don't buy that, but anyway. But as it does rip off, you hear it flutter and then and go off, and then you hear the wind and so
appreciated.
On. It's textured, right? There's a sense of solitude and bleakness to it, and so on. That it's.
Why don't we talk like that?
Like elves?
Like Brent. Why don't we talk like Brent?
Brent's smart.
He's such a professor.
Yeah.
Brent, we ask 2 questions to everybody that comes on. Well, he asked 1. I got 2.
Okay.
That's 3.
We ask. I know that's 3 total. I didn't listen. I'm not a professor.
We went to community college.
Listen,
it reminds me of Spamalot, where Arthur says, "Oh shit! Now I forgot it. Have a drink and a pee. We'll be back after Act 3. 2, sir, 2."
Brent, I'm interested. I'm really interested to know, and I'm wondering if it's like an art house thing, or is it like a blockbuster, or is it what is your favorite movie?
That is a very, very difficult question.
Yeah.
It's kind of 2 movies at once. So Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Okay.
So Blade Runner is just, for me, kind of a revolutionary film in terms of a whole aesthetic that goes on to, I mean, if you think of the whole cyberpunk thing,
tell me why I should like Blade Runner.
Well, I mean, because Blade Runner is visually stunning.
What version, first off, are we talking about?
I would say
there's like 9 versions.
Yeah, no, the final director's cut.
Okay,
I think the one that doesn't have the Harrison Ford voiceover dialogue.
Okay,
because in the original theatrical release, they gave Harrison Ford, you know, dialogue to just speak over top, and I think it was to orient.
Yeah, an stupid audience to catch up.
Just to keep the audience engaged in what was going on, because it is a slow moving movie. It's meditative almost.
Yeah.
But it's I think the way it tells its story visually, I think the way shots are structured visually. For example, if you watch Blade Runner and watch the eyes. The notion of seeing and being seen is constantly being repeated as a sort of almost like a theme throughout the show, right? Seeing and being. Mm-hmm. And so Blade Runner, in a sense, thematically, is about the same thing that 2049 is about. What does it mean to be human? What are the essential elements of being human, one of which, the central one that comes out in the first Blade Runner, is death. Right? Death is what defines us. Batty wants more life.
Yeah.
Right? He comes back, he wants more life. But Batty is discovering mortality. And that mortality begins to define him. And in the end, his final,
speech on the roof,
all these things will be lost like tears in rain. You know, that is very profound. That goes to the heart of what makes us human. Without death, most of our identity kind of bleeds away, because it's our mortality that sort of drives us to do things. We may not be conscious of it, but why do we strive to be remembered or to do things that are good? Well, we do things that are good because, well, in a religious context, because we fear what's beyond death, or there's all these things that surround, and so that's thematically, I think, is really interesting. Visually, is really interesting. Sonically, the soundtrack is incredible. Vangelis' soundtrack. There's just so many universal themes. And then Blade Runner 2049 as a sequel, Denis Villeneuve's sequel, is stunning.
Yeah, he's your Doom boy. You should like it.
Listen, he's the best director working right now.
He, again, he makes a beautiful sequel that honors the original, but is its own thing.
Its own movie.
Both sonically, so in terms of sound design, beeps and boops, of machines and this kind of thing. The music honors the original, but is its own thing. The aesthetic of the place, it uses bigatures, for example, like instead of, like the cityscape, they create it takes up an entire warehouse, the cityscape, right? But they actually fly the camera through physical models, right? Something that's being lost, in cinema in many ways. And then thematically, it takes this notion of death and moves beyond that into how do we cultivate meaning? What does it mean to live meaningfully, right? Is it to have an identity given to you by someone else? I mean, I don't want to do spoilers for the film, but the lead character at some point believes that perhaps, is it to procreate, for example? Right? This notion of procreation. Well, we were becoming real by procreating. Well, is that really becoming real? Is that really becoming human? Is becoming real by having an identity, to being the one. And then he finds out that's not true either. So how does he really form his identity? In the sense, in the end, he kind of forms his identity by giving.
Yeah.
Right? By sacrificing himself. And so self-sacrifice, as the one replicant that he meets in that underground place says, giving of ourselves is the most human thing you can do. Right? So it's this exploration of all these, and also there's this notion, for example, the simulated lover that he has.
I was going to ask you about
Does she love him?
Yeah.
Or is she programmed to love him?
And I was going to ask you what you felt his response to her was as well. Like, what's your interpretation of his feelings on her?
I think, I mean, we don't.
If he has feelings.
He does have feelings.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear. But I think that he struggles with the same question that we do, that does she love me or is she programmed to love me?
Yeah.
But then underneath that question is, well, isn't that the story with all of us?
Yeah, I guess, hey?
Do I love my wife, or is my cultural programming putting me in this emotional cultural position where I believe that I love her?
I love my wife. Making sure.
But I'm just
making
saying,
sure
though?
she's listening.
I mean,
I love my wife.
So whether or not she's in fact really emotionally there, existent,
yeah,
we don't know. We cannot see inside one another, and so all we see is behavior.
Yeah.
So does it really matter? And somehow to us it does matter, this notion of truth. Well, why does that matter? Right. So anyways, Blade Runner 2049 just covers so thematically, visually, sonically, everything. It's just such a beautiful film. I really enjoy it.
I could sit and listen to you talk about things for hours.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Could you just talk about ketchup?
The glitter ketchup in that YouTube ad?
Yeah, you do you. Hold on. Okay, go.
No.
Okay.
No, I refuse.
I like really, to go back to what you said, I think Ridley Scott is one of the greatest directors for thematic viewing. You point to any of his movies.
Well, yeah. Even the Napoleon movie, for example, which historically is tripe. It is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it is just awful from a historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But from the perspective of the relationship that he has with Josephine, that's the core of that movie.
That is the movie, yeah.
That is the movie. The other stuff is just boom, crash, bam, right? So the Napoleonic sort of aficionados are going, oh, that's wrong, and you didn't do that.
They did get loud.
Right.
They were upset.
Well, and I understand it. I mean, because they've been waiting for years to have, since, like, I think the last really big budget Napoleonic movie was in the late 70s. Mm-hmm. So having an epic scale with lots of budget, Napoleonic movie, what would it cost to just get the historical parts right. It wouldn't have cost him more. Just make the effort, you know. But I get that, so it bothers them. But yeah, I think the core of that story, thematically, is that relationship between he and Josephine. And in fact, I think the movie should have been called Napoleon and Josephine or something like that.
Yeah. No, I
And it was also an exploration in a sense of his character, of his kind of... I've read a fair bit about the guy, and he was pretty, on the one hand, this is maybe true of all people who are deeply successful and powerful, is that they're also deeply insecure. Right? I mean, why do you want so much power?
Yeah.
Why
so
do
people
you
will think
strive
I'm a big
so
boy.
hard to dominate? Well, because you have certain issues, right? And he did have issues. He came from very little. I think they could have explored that a little more. He's a
peasant.
Well, not a peasant. He came from Corsican minor nobility. Which
let's be honest. Corsicans are peasants. Let's be honest. Let's not give him too much credit.
French people that he kind of trained with as a young man, they did see him as a country bumpkin, right? And that affected him, right? So I think that's interesting in that movie. And I think you're right about Ridley Scott. He does.
Yeah.
And there are movies Ridley Scott did that other people hate.
Yeah.
Like Prometheus.
Yeah.
People really bang on Prometheus, but I really liked it.
To the theme that he was trying to show. Like he is very good, and he locks in his theme early on in the entire movie. He sticks to that, which I appreciate, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corbin, I interrupted you.
But I'm with you, Corbin, on the Denis Villeneuve. I think he is one of the greatest directors of our time.
He makes movies.
Really interesting visually, thematically. I'm trying to think of the movie he made. It's
Arrival?
Prisoners.
It's early.
That's one of my favorites.
It's an early film about a young woman who goes to Palestine, to Lebanon, actually.
I haven't seen this one.
And it's kind of exploring her father, trying to find sort of her family connections.
Okay.
And it is fascinating. It is so good. And yeah, I mean, I think Denis Villeneuve has kind of have you guys ever seen, if you're into film, there's a YouTube...
Incendies.
Yeah, incendier.
Sorry.
So means on fire.
Yes.
Or something like that, like burning or on fire. And fire, actually, like visually as an element, is very central in the film. But there's this YouTube channel called Like Stories of Old, LSOO. Give it a listen. It is fantastic. This guy he does not really movie reviews. They're more like reflections on film. And he's done a few on several Villeneuve films, but he also has one of his videos is on, his work, the work of Villeneuve. What are the through lines in Villeneuve's work? What appears in each of his films, and what is he exploring? Whether he's conscious of it or not, what is he exploring? And that sort of, that human question, solitude. What is it? Even it's in Dune again. The young man who lives in this kind of strange solitude, where he has to discover himself, find meaning in his existence. You look at Blade Runner, you have this, the Blade Runner, the replicant, is trying to find himself. Who is he? What is he?
Yeah. Kate Mercer in Sicario goes down to Mexico, and now she's got
she's
what is she willing to give?
Well, she's surrounded by people that won't tell her why she's there.
Yeah.
And she's finding her way.
Yeah. And trying to and also her sense of moral self, right? Yep. Like, is being challenged.
Prisoners. You have the father who it seems like he is alone in his quest to find his
Anna
daughters.
goes missing.
And the lengths he goes to.
Yeah, the limits of the self and defining the self, right?
I love that movie.
Underrated Hugh Jackman movie.
Arrival.
It's my favorite.
So there's this kind of through line, but check it out. Like Stories of Old, it's just a lovely. The guy has a great voice. He's kind of a Dutch Belgian. His accent, I really like his accent, but he's very thoughtful, and his editing is really fantastic. The way he's his videos, like a lot of YouTube videos are kind of
just choppy,
chunky. He's very elegant, very beautiful editing. He has like meditations on war films, like what is a war film, or what would an anti-war film look like.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. He has a really great meditation on Blade Runner, actually.
I like
call it a
those
meditation
video
just 'cause
essays.
it's a video essay is what it is.
I do like. I like to sit and watch them. They're fun.
Yeah.
Arrival. We didn't talk about Arrival.
Arrival's lovely.
Arrival's good.
Sensational.
I don't think it stuck the landing.
I did.
I don't think Arrival stuck its landing. I don't think to where it went. That's just how I felt walking away. But I mean, the rest of it.
I was
good.
blown away because I didn't know what I was watching. I didn't know I was watching that movie when it ended like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what I was watching? Wow.
I said the same thing about Team America World Police.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. What's your favorite scene from that movie? Be honest.
Honestly, it's when the two
sex?
puppets are guarding the prisoners in North Korea.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the actors. I think it was Martin Sheen and who was the one who did Milk? Who's actually did Milk?
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn and Martin Sheen. they're playing cards, and he's like, "We got to watch you. We're guards." He's like, "Yeah, we're guards. We're guards." That's my favorite part. I love
Durka Jihad.
Go southwest of Turkestan.
He looks just like a
that again.
terrorist.
I gotta watch that again.
I was at the time. I was almost ashamed to be laughing as hard as I was because I had the sense that I was watching, what was incredibly campy and dumb, but at the same time, I was just laughing my ass off.
Yeah.
So funny.
Their comedy is just next level because they're thinking about what seems like an obvious like low hanging fruit. No, they've thought this.
They're
through.
so smart.
They thought this through, and they're like, we're gonna nail this. We're gonna make this the best low hanging fruit.
And that lovely sort of uncomfortable. This is going on too long, but it's
We're gonna hold on.
still. Hold on, no. Oh my God, it's still going on.
Okay, now poop on them. Brent, how long have you been playing D&D, and where did you get started?
Okay, so I started. Let's see, it would be 1980. So I was born in '69, revealing my antiquity. Mm-hmm. So I would be like 12 or something.
Okay,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I played it was the Moldvay basic box. So there was the original D&D back in '74, and then as it had a sort of rough start, and then it began to take off in the United States, and they began to realize that the original D&D was frankly badly written, that it had sort of 2 rule sets inside it for combat and this kind of thing, and they really had to clean it up for a bigger audience. So they began to have this idea for a basic box, a basic set that would have everything in it, some maps and an adventure, and then a basic rule book. And it came in a box. Yeah, the basic box. So I paid, so 19, and that was published in '79, I think. So that's what I played. It wasn't advanced D&D. There was just the basic box. That's what there was.
And you were 8-ish?
10-ish, 11-ish, yeah. And we didn't have anybody teaching us anything. Like I can't even remember who got it first. Like we were like 6 or 7 friends.
Where'd you buy it? Like, who sold it?
Well, in those days, you had.
You know what I mean?
There weren't game stores. There were comic stores, and there were also like in our little town, it was a photo store, but he also had like collectible cards and this kind of thing. Okay. So it was Bob's Photo Shop or something like that, and he developed pictures, but he also had like a little corner which had games and stuff in it, and he sold miniatures, like the little lead miniatures, and we were just like, you were 11 years old, right? It was just like magical.
Did you hear about it before you went in, or did you hear about it when you went in?
Well, I don't remember which of my friends got the book first.
Okay.
But we got the book and we started poring over it, and we just kind of figured out how to play it, by reading it, taking turns reading it. And then we took turns being the DM, the dungeon master who would run the game. And we did tons of stuff wrong, I'm sure. But it was so engaging. And this is in the middle of the satanic panic of the early 80s, right?
Right.
Where, playing D&D was going to rob you of your soul.
Did anyone accuse you of something a demon?
Well, see, I grew up in a Christian family. I grew up in like Christian Reformed Dutch immigrant family.
Were you allowed to dance?
Well, we weren't allowed to make love standing up because that might lead to dancing.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough.
That's fair.
Yeah,
fair.
So that sort of thing.
Corbyn always tries to dance with me.
Yeah, what my dad. Well, the thing is, this is interesting because that would peg me at 13 years old when we really got started playing it. So that would be 81, 82. So, but my dad had passed away when I was 13, and he was the more legalistic kind of Christian. My mom was much more sort of easygoing. And at that time she said, I've heard that this is a bad game that you guys are playing, but tell me about it. So she didn't go, oh, this is evil, burn it. She said, why don't you tell me about it? So again, right there, that says a lot about what my mom was like, right?
Yeah.
She wasn't just judge it. So I just talked to her about heroic fantasy. I mean, I'm not sure how I phrased it, but basically I said, look, we're trying to kill monsters. We're trying to stop evil. We're not trying to be evil.
Yeah.
And casting a spell is just like saying, I cast fireball.
Yeah.
That you're not doing anything, right? And you roll dice.
Give me my incense.
Right, yeah, And so
I summon Satan.
And her response was, well, at least you're not hanging out in front of 7-Eleven making a nuisance of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
So we spent hours and hours and hours just up in my dad's unfinished rec room, just poring over these books and making up stories. And yeah, it was, and then I didn't play for years. So we played, I guess, until grade 8, grade 9, I guess, and then stopped playing it. I don't know if we were going to different high schools as well, so I kind of didn't have as much contact.
I blame girls.
Yeah, that kind of thing, yeah.
Got to focus on
And
girls
then I didn't
now.
play for years and years and years, and then actually when we got here to Lethbridge, which would have been around 2005, my kids were quite young at the time, they were like 10, 11, and I was telling my son, I can't even remember why, I was telling him about this game we used to play. And he's like, okay, it's interesting, I guess. And he didn't read. Like, he was 10, and, I mean, he could read, but try to get him to read. Impossible. Like, he just didn't, of his own volition.
Yeah.
Right? He's a perfectly good reader, but he just wouldn't read of his own volition. Anyways, one day I'm in the used bookstore downtown, and I see the books on the shelf, the old rule books. And so I picked them up for, all three of them. And the old hardcovers, and I handed it to him. And I said, this is the game we used to play when we were kids. He's like, oh, okay. Walks away. 2 weeks later, he comes back to me, and he's like, we have to play this. He'd read them all, cover to cover, right? And which was pretty exciting for us as parents.
Absolutely.
We found the thing.
Finally, we did it.
Yeah, we found the thing that was interesting to him. And so we started playing as a family with our kids, and then they brought their friends over to play with us, and I was the GM. And so we played with our kids all through into their teenage years.
So cool.
And it kept us in contact with our kids. There was no sort of I hate you phase with the kids. We were, I guess,
because I got to play D&D. I can't get too mad at them because I want to play this week.
Yeah, and we had so much fun, and the kids have so many good memories. Now they're like grown-up nerds.
Yeah.
Right? And they run their own games and that sort of thing. But it really is this kind of great heritage, and in my adult life now, and that's when I started playing again with other grown-ups kind of thing. And it's this kind of mutual creation, that you do on the fly. It's totally
shared storytelling.
Shared storytelling, and it's just so wonderful in this day and age of packaged.
And I'll jump in here with my quick story. Is that in 2018. I just started to watch whatever YouTube bought. Hey, do you want to watch this Dungeons and Dragons game? And I was obviously aware of it, but I hadn't touched it. Hadn't touched with 10-foot pole my entire life.
What year are we talking about? Sorry?
2018.
Okay.
That's when YouTube really had a huge impact.
That's when YouTube really took it off. And that's the only way that it came across me. And I watched, I was like, oh, whatever, I'll watch it. I'm sitting there playing a video game or someone watch it. And watching these people do this, and obviously it clicked a bit of a nick for me for my own way of storytelling and obviously stage stuff, and you watch this 4-hour jaunt of whatever it was, and I said, man, that
unscripted creation.
I was like, that was cool, and that started the dipping the toe into, okay, well, let me see, where's this book? This player's handbook.
Yeah.
And I started reading. I'm like, so okay, how do you make a character? Okay, well, I'm gonna make Milo the halfling rogue, and I'm gonna do this now, and that put me down the hole, and a month later I was like, okay, I really want to play this. I want to do something. And I went to my wife and I was like, wife, I want to play this. And to her credit, she's like, okay, I don't know what it is, but sure. How do you play it? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you need a dungeon master. And she's like, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can't either. So I start Googling around, and lo and behold, I find something that's called Adventures League.
Oh, is that when you came?
So that is a public a game where once or twice a week people can go to, and very polite people volunteer their time to dungeon master.
It was at a local game store.
Yeah,
How intimidated were you?
So I kind of look at what it needed to be. It just said, "Oh, bring your character to this game store on a Wednesday and jump in." I was like, "Okay." So I bought my little dice, and I made my wife do it all, so she'd go with me. Yeah. And we had our little character sheets with us, and we go down to this comic book shop that I've never been to before, and walk in. And the nonchalant guy at the counter, and behind him I could just see a row of tables and just 30 people. And just at different tables doing stuff.
In those days, we had a lot of people coming.
I was like, "Oh man, yeah, look at that!" And so there was like from 7-year-olds to 50-year-olds. And I was like, "Jesus, look at this!" And the guy's like, "Yeah, all right, here, pay me $5." Like, "Okay, go find a chair."
Yeah.
And I sat down at a table with Brent, who was DMing.
Really?
And so my wife and I sat down for our first ever game. We were level 1 characters, and I think you were playing a game with like level 6 or something. And I think you remember telling me like, "Hey, if these guys die, you die. So they don't die." He kind of said the rules out of the gate.
Yeah.
And
do not kill the noobs.
And I will never forget that first game, because you immediately start DMing wonderfully. You start telling the story, and you're using voices, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, look at this guy, and he's just building that. We're just sitting here, and I'm like, I'm going to be stealthy and do my thing.
What was that adventure about?
So what I remember is they were on a mountain, and they were looking to find something. And I think the moment that it really clicked into me, the gameplay and the storytelling, is an avalanche started because of a fight, because we were on a mountain.
Oh, that's right.
And the avalanche hits my little halfling, and I get buried under the avalanche because I roll like shit.
Because one of the characters had used like thunder wave.
Yeah, something
like
huge, right in the middle of a
off.
giant mountain range. And so I'm under there, and it keeps coming back to my turn. I'm like, "Hey, well, I want to get out of here." And you say, "Yeah, well, you're packed under like 5 feet, you can't breathe. So every little chick you're now suffocating, roll to get out."
Yeah.
And I keep rolling like shit. And so now I'm getting to the point where I'm almost going to die. And it's kind of that moment I'm like, I fucking love this game.
I care. Yeah. I care whether he dies.
Yeah, like it's just, you're like whoa, I can't die. And we're literally sitting at a table like this, talking just like this.
Yeah.
The only difference is there's a piece of paper in front of you. That is the only difference. And I'm like, if anything happens to Milo, I'm going to burn this goddamn building to the ground. And that immediate moment, and I was like, this game fucking rocks.
Yeah, just that engagement, right?
Yeah, but he was the first person to ever DM a D&D game for me.
Cool.
Never met him before. Randomly.
That's
completely randomly 2018 until we met again on that show. How many years later?
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was my first big, and I
still have people like years later. I had a guy at the university. I'm walking down the hall, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Brent." I'm like, I recognize him, but I have had so many students over the last 20 years, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, you know, hey, you.
Hey, guy."
Yeah.
If you're listening.
Like, "Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say, I still remember, like, you know, playing D&D with you. And look, I got my own group now, and I'm running a group. Look, check this out." And he pulls up his sleeve, and he's got a tattoo of a D20 on his arm, right? He's like, "I got a tattoo and everything," you know? And that's really exciting, like the next generation. You know, it's just, and so many groups here in town that started from that.
At the Adventures
Wednesday nights, right? That just,
totally.
And then when that store closed, people just kept going, just went on doing their thing, and there's lots of.
Is there like a local Facebook group or something like that?
There is, but it's not very active right now.
Okay.
A lot of people found their groups. I mean, I have played steadily since 2018.
Yeah,
that I've played.
Yeah,
and it kind of started from there.
How many people can you pack into a game? In one.
I would say it depends. Like in the old days, I mean. With original D&D, they used to play with like 12, 15 guys around the table, right? But they played in a different way, and it was very much murder hoboism. You know, go into the room, kill the thing, take the stuff, go on, right? It wasn't as story-driven as D&D tends to be now. That's why you have these old school gamers. You know, you can't be merciful to the players. You just got to
kill them.
Dice falls where they fall.
Yeah.
Anyway, but these days, I would say 6 is your max.
Okay. Including the DM?
No.
As players.
As players.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then there's a turn sequence, right? And so if there's too many players, moving around the turn sequence can take a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you're necessarily just doing nothing when it isn't your turn, right? I mean, you're still engaged in the story. You can still talk, these kinds of things. But if it's pure combat, well, you just kind of got to wait.
Yeah.
Right. You can think about what am I going to do? And that's really helpful, actually, to think about what is it you want to do on your turn so that when it gets to you and you go, okay, because there's an initiative order. So you roll the dice to see who goes first. And so the quick rogue might have a modifier that make his initiative higher.
Pilot skill.
Yeah. So that he'll go first.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And then so that in turn initiative determines, okay, now it's your turn. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to slash him with my sword. Okay, now it's your turn. What are you going to do? I'm going to fire off this fireball or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but if there's more than 6 people, then that
Just extends
turn
the game.
sequence starts getting a bit draggy.
Yeah.
And depends on the edition you're playing too. Because some of the, like 4th edition, for example, when I say edition, I just mean D&D has gone through many editions over the years. We're currently in the 5th edition, although
For the next few months. Yeah.
yeah, there's a new one coming out, but it's supposed to be compatible, so it's not.
That's why I want-
it's kind of a half new edition.
5.
That's what I wanted to ask you when you were telling me about your gap between when you were young and then when you
Yeah.
picked it up. What was the because like I mean the bones are still the same, but what was the jump in gameplay?
So when I was young, we were playing. So we started with the basic box, and we got as far as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which
Yeah.
was. And then subsequent to that, there was a bunch of releases. And so then there was 2nd edition, which I didn't play at all. And then 3rd edition, and then 3.5. And then we started playing again around 4th edition, which was very board gamey in its feel.
People love it or hate it.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have like a grid in front of you.
Okay.
You had to have miniatures. It was not playable without miniatures.
Okay.
And because you had things like if you were adjacent, then you had a certain thing. But if you're and your radius was measured in squares, this kind of thing. If you have a blast radius, it's measured in 3 squares radius or something like
Yeah.
that. So everything was on a grid. Whereas the current edition, 5th edition, can be played entirely what we call theater of the mind, where you don't need any miniatures, you don't need anything on the table. It's nice, it's fun. In some cases, if it's really complex, let's say you're in a big room and there's like some lever you have to pull while you're fighting the troll, and then you have to get across the bridge, and it's
A lot of
sometimes-
mechanics in one room.
Yeah,
You
then
gotta
it might be
speak to.
helpful to have a map, but it's never absolutely necessary. And if you listen to, for example, like Chris Perkins doing dice camera action, never ever had a map, right? It was always theater of the mind.
He's one of the head writers of D&D.
Yeah.
Chris Perkins.
Great DM too, just one of these incredibly adaptive people who never ever lets on whether something that happened was planned or unplanned.
Yeah.
Right. It just absolutely goes with it and never reveals anything, which just adds to the immersion, of course. But anyway, so with theater of the mind, it goes a lot quicker. Because as soon as you put a grid down on the table, people start to slow down. They go, if
what
I
do I
move
gotta
2
do?
squares in this direction, then I fire off this fireball, then I have to make sure I'm this far away so that I don't hit my companion. And,
Which some people love.
oh, absolutely. So it
Some
depends on
people
your
love
play
that way to
style.
play. Yeah.
And so 3.5, for example, was, I'm supposed to say, broken. Like you could create these incredible combinations of skills and this kind of thing where you would just have these ridiculously powerful abilities
Yeah.
that were arguably broken. But some people love that. And for some people that the development part of a character, like trying to find that ideal combination where I do this, if you do this, and they do it with a party. So for example, this healer guy, if he does this thing,
Yeah.
and then you buff
I'm
me,
going to cast
you buff
Bless
me,
on you.
Yeah,
I'm going to haste you up.
yeah, and I'll cast haste on you, so now you get 2 attacks. And then if you use this ability, then we could get like 126 hit points damage in a single round, right? It's sort of thinking these very mechanical terms. And some people love that. And other people are storytellers. And this is, I used to do GM workshops.
Yeah.
GM Game Master workshops, and sort of you have to kind of think about what players do you have, right? There's the whack-a-mole character or player who just wants to hit stuff. They're not the min-maxer. They're not creating these ideal combinations, but they're just there to hit stuff.
Okay, really quickly, I'm a tabletop guy.
Yeah.
I still don't know what min-maxing means.
Okay, min-maxing means minimizing the damage that happens to you.
Okay.
Maximizing your damage output.
Okay, that's easy. Sorry to interrupt.
So basically, like if you think X-Wing,
Yeah.
right? Sort of thinking, what would give me the maximum number of shields
Yeah.
and allow me to fire off the maximum and have the maximum ability to hit people from all arcs.
Yeah.
The subjugation of that,
Like
the
you did
background.
with your Falcon, where you tried to take an ordinary ship and make it into this super ship by combining it with other ships and this kind of thing. That's in a sense min-maxing, right? Trying to find this ideal combination of abilities and skills and traits and this kind of thing.
Cool.
And X-Wing turned into that with the card building thing, right?
Yeah.
It really turned into a card building game,
yeah.
right? You could have that player who just wants to hit stuff. You could have the min-maxer person who
Do we
just
call them
wants
big dick swingers? Is that what we call them?
No,
we don't call them that.
They just want to see their
It's a
character
style away, yeah.
But they're happy when their character shines and does what they made it to do.
That makes sense.
Right? And then there's method actors who always want to be in character when they're speaking and they're trying to act during the entire session. I'm the bard, this sort of thing, right? And then there's the storytellers who want to know why Yeah.
Tell me for the next 30 minutes why.
Yeah. Or the apple seller in the market. What's her name?
What's that chair? What's the reason that chair's that way?
Gertrude. Gertrude sounds like virtue.
Speaking
Is
of
she
which,
a virtuous? They're looking for, they're kind of construct the story in their minds. They don't care about the hitting stuff. They want to tell a story.
Speaking of which, this episode of Radical Apathy is brought to you by sex. Sex! We still enjoy it.
I'm still looking for the vagina.
Tell me more about D&D.
What is
Excellent commercial break.
What is the geekiest D&D or tabletop thing you have done out of game?
What?
Like you, Brent.
Yeah.
When you think back? I mean, obviously people call this geeky. I mean, I love it, but
Yeah.
what would you say when you think back? Like, oh, that was pretty geeky even for me. A thing that you would have done.
Can you give me an example, like something you've done?
Would it be? Well, one time.
Back at you, friend.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to gauge what you're asking me here.
So one time we had.
Remember, this is brought to you by sex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've totally had sex with people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sex me up, man." So one time we wanted to play D&D outside, right? And that led into, okay, well it's cold, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll wear a jacket. I'm going to wear a jacket though, like my character will wear, and that inevitably
Yes, it
turned to the
turned
next thing
into LARPing?
and this turned into LARPing.
Okay.
So which is live action role playing. So I'm going to say, well, I'm already outside, and my guy would climb that tree this way, so. I'm gonna go climb that tree. So that turned out.
Just to be clear, yeah, LARP. LARP is like, so you have D&D nerds,
Yeah.
but D&D nerds think that LARPers,
Are nerds.
live action
Are
role
nerds.
players, are like next level nerds.
So you're out in those are the guys dressed up out in the field.
So you were this
Like
guy.
put on the fake elf ears.
I mean,
or,
very very lightly, like I'll
So you were an
tree.
L-LARP.
A light LARPer. Yeah.
Light LARPer.
Light LARPer.
light. LARPer light.
So that's the example I would give.
That's laughable
Yeah.
and lovely. So for a number of years we went to GaryCon, which is a huge nerd convention in Indianapolis. It began it's called Gen Con because it started in Lake Geneva,
Yeah.
Wisconsin, where D&D was invented. And eventually, it's in Indianapolis. There's like 180,000 nerds in this convention center.
The nerdiest of conventions, one would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And so Juanita and I
That's his wife.
basically, we GM'd for this group he does Geek Nation tours. And so he literally takes people on nerd tours of the world.
Amazing.
And so, yeah, you can go on your nerd tour. Like right now he's running a nerd tour to Japan where you can like dress up like a samurai and just kind of like, yeah, he does these sort of, niche nerd tours. Anyways, he took a group to Gen Con that year and he got a hold of me and he asked if I would GM for him. And the game was, we were live GMing on the street. So kind of like LARPing.
Yeah.
But it was a zombie game. And so as we stepped out of the restaurant, like we got free supper for doing this.
Heck yeah.
We step out of the restaurant and I say, and they're all kind of looking at me and I say, as you're standing here, an ambulance comes down the road and careens towards you. You jump out of the way and the ambulance hits the front of the restaurant and the back door falls open. And there's two bodies in there. And they look dead, but then they get up. out of the ambulance and come towards you, and it's a zombie thing, right? And now the players have to make it back through the streets, like 6 blocks away in Indianapolis, to their hotel to get off the helicopter. There's a helicopter pad on the top of the hotel. And so we literally sort of ran through the streets as they were trying to decide what to do, and they were trying to find weapons and break into cars and this kind of stuff. All, not actually breaking into cars, of course, but saying what they were going to do. And then we had this rock, paper, scissors methods for determining dice rolls kind of thing.
Love it.
And we're going through these crowds, and people are just looking at, what the hell are these people doing? Running into the back of I run into the back of the restaurant and look for a butcher knife, and he's and it was pretty damn nerdy, but it was glorious, like wide open in public. Though, eh? Yeah, it was so fun. And we actually had in our group, my group, we actually had a guy with military training, right? So. It was pretty fun.
So he's going full Fallujah on you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and very, very nerdy. I've never done LARP.
I don't
was this
think
a 1 day LARP for you, or was this
that was like
LARP?
that was like a 1 day, 1 hour kind of LARP thing.
Okay.
I did do one where it was kind of like one of these murder mystery things, but it was live action in the room, and you're walking around the room,
and you're playing a character type
playing
thing.
A character.
I have done the murder mystery party things.
Yeah.
I played a oiled tycoon cowboy.
Oh, that's fun.
And everyone stopped playing their character about 10 minutes in, and I did not drop the accent.
You didn't break
the entire night. I didn't break once.
That's the profession.
awesome.
That's the professionalism.
Not once.
Tanner brings.
If I'm walking in,
Tanner brings it.
You are going to hear this terrible cowboy accent.
Well, I love
for
the
next
accent.
5 hours.
That's one of my favorite things in D&D is coming up with characters and doing the accents and just creating that immersion. Right? It's just fun.
He's good at it.
Can I ask a question about D&D?
Sure.
So there's a rule. So does every game have the same general structure? Like, is there an end boss you got to get? Do they have a standard amount of hit points? Does all the players have a standard amount of hit points? No. Is there a structure from A to B, or is this just free fall? And nobody knows what the rules are when they get there.
I mean, so when you start out, your characters will have minimum hit points.
Okay.
Right, and they will develop over time.
Okay.
You level up.
You kind of level up, and so you gain hit points at a relatively consistent rate. And then
is that in the book saying that you got to do this?
Yeah, so that when you level up, you will, for example, let's say you're a fighter, you would roll a d10, and then as a fighter, you'd add your Constitution modifier, which might be +3 or something, and you might roll a 1 +3, and so your hit points go up by 4, or it might go up by 14.
Depending on how you roll.
Right. So you could be like at level 5 and not have that great hit points.
Is it all D20s?
Well, no. In this case, it would be 10-sided dice if you're depending on your character. So, for example, magic users tend to have a very low hit points.
Okay.
And they roll a very low die in order to gain hit points.
Okay.
Because
that's in the book.
Yeah, that's in the book.
Okay.
But traditionally in the game, D&D, through the ages, if you will, magic users tend to be quite fragile when they start out.
Yeah.
But can, if they survive, become quite powerful.
Called the glass cannon.
Yeah, so that if you actually go at the magic user with a knife, you can kill him pretty easily.
Yeah.
But if he stands back and hits you with something, you could burn.
You're going hard.
So
Doctor Strange is kind of a pussy.
Whereas your barbarian, for example, you just keep whacking him and the guy just won't go down, right? Yeah. So, and then in terms of monsters, no, there are like a monster manual which has various monsters of various kinds, and they'll have official values. But again, as a GM, you're not obligated to do that. You could just make stuff up, just make up your own monsters and change their hit points and do whatever you like. And there's no particular story arc. In fact, depending on how open-ended you want to play it, you just let it happen. It could go on for years, a story, and there's no end boss. You might run into various story elements or whatever, but there's no predicting where it's going to go. I mean, you as a GM kind of make plans. Like, what's going to go on in the background if there's some intrigue in this country or something like that, right? And the extent to which the players engage with that is entirely up to them.
Finality is a thing, though. Like, I mean, you need to have some sort of finality.
I would say there's story
to
arcs.
Have goals, right?
Yeah, there's story arcs. So you do accomplish things. So let's say, for example, you want to recover, I don't know, let's just go, archetypal. You want to recover the hostage or something like that. But then you discover, so you do recover the hostage, but then it turns out that the reason they were capturing the hostage was related to something else that they want. Or getting you to come try to rescue the hostage was also part of the plan. And now one of you is infected with some curse. Or one of you has taken away a magical item that is actually carrying the soul of someone who wants to get into the palace. So you're actually just turned into a Trojan horse without realizing it.
Imagine it the 7 seasons of a television show.
Right.
Where you're going to have arcs and completions and, won't they get married in this season, or how that all happens.
Like Bones, right? I mean, there's the marriage thing, or are they going to fall in love, or are they going to get together, goes through 14 seasons or whatever. But each episode has a kind of arc in it. But there are larger arcs as well. Yeah. So there's little sort of small stories, and then those stories exist within larger stories, and that's up to the GM to sort of find those longer arcs. But you're right, if there's never any sense of accomplishment, like you're just going around killing stuff and taking stuff.
It's going back to Blade Runner.
Murder hoboism.
The meaning is death.
Well, yeah. And it is true, though, that notion that your character could die drives your actions in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like whether you run away or stay and fight. But the dying might actually be the meaning part. So if, let's say, you're playing this paladin, and the paladin stays and fights in order to let everyone else escape. So they die. That character dies. But it was a good death. It was a meaningful death in the context of the game.
Yeah.
Right? And depending on how you construct that character, that might be a perfect arc for that character, that they go up to, say, 5th level, and then they, in defense of the party, allowing them to escape, they die this glorious death against whatever, And
does that dude just pack up and leave at that point?
No.
All right, I'm out of here.
You make another character. If you want to keep playing, you just make up another character and on the way escaping, they stop in an inn and they meet this hurdy-gurdy, the bard, who happens to be playing there.
Why is there always a bard?
So one of the things, you saw that D&D movie with Chris Pine.
Yeah, I was
recently.
I like that one.
I did like the movie.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted more than anything was, because that happens a lot. Sometimes your character will die and that character's out, and then the next game when you come back, you're like, I'm Jimmy the Paladin, and then he dies, and you're like, I'm Cam Bites the Druid, right? So, but it's the same obviously person, and I wanted nothing more than for one of them to die in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Playing whatever. So Chris Pine is playing as a roguish whatever, and then he dies, and then they find another person in the bar who's being played by Chris Pine, but he's just a completely different character. I wanted nothing more than them to do that in the movie.
There were some good sort of gaming moments. In that
totally.
one, like the whole, like when the bard thing goes wrong, and it starts getting warped and stuff, and trying to attune to the magical item and that sort of stuff.
It won't work,
There was some funny stuff in there.
I liked Jack.
I thought it was fun.
A fun movie.
It was a fun movie. And
I don't know if you've ever seen any of the original D&D movie.
When did that come out?
80s. I'm not sure exactly when, but it was bloody awful. Like it was almost like Star Wars holiday special bad.
Wow.
It was really awful. Its only redeeming quality was Jeremy Irons as the villain. And I think Jeremy Irons...
Oh, wait a minute. I do remember this. This was in the 90s, I think. This wasn't 80s. This was 90s.
It was early 90s. Maybe it was.
Yes, it was early 90s.
But Jeremy Irons basically thought... I think he just would like...
2000.
If I have to... Really?
2000.
If I have to be in this movie, I am going to crank it up to 12, baby. And he was just overacting in every scene. And just, it was over the top.
Fucking overacting.
It was fucking overacting. Great line from Toxie. Anyway.
I'm sure you have played, hundreds at this point of different characters in D&D.
Yeah.
But when you think about one... Whom is your primary character? Like for
first of all, I don't actually often play characters. I often GM.
Or who? I guess here's another question. I'll change it. who's Brent's avatar in your games? So when you bring in an NPC or a non-playable character, so a character you're playing, who's the one that's always kind of Brent's avatar in whatever game you're DMing?
I don't have that. I don't have like a, sort of what they call a Mary Sue character that's, always shows up and is better than anybody else kind of thing. I don't do that. But I do have some favorite NPCs, non-player characters. There was Llewellyn the Loquacious, who was this incredibly annoying bard that I am based on, who's the annoying dark arts teacher. What was his name?
Like Snape?
No. The replacement one who came in. The
one with the
Gilderoy
Flash
Lockhart.
Gilderoy, the flashy boy.
Yeah, the party can start. I'm here. He was fun. Then there was this chef. It's the bit characters that are fun, and my kids remember them years later too. This chef that was so obsessed about his food that anybody who asked for salt, he would just fly into this this vengeful rage if anybody suggested that his food needed anything new. This kind of thing, right? So those are the kind of things that people remember. But is there a favorite? I have, I'm part of a D&D group as well. I played a really disgusting alchemist who was vile to be around because he was always testing his own alchemical concoctions, and so his breath was this vile vapor, that no one could stand to be close to him. Yuri Andropolievich Tabachovich.
Good Lord.
Like he had like a 6-syllable name that he insisted on pronouncing at every point. And yeah, he was a fun character to play.
I like that. They're fun. Speaking of characters to play.
Yeah.
You've known Corbyn now for a while.
Yeah.
Intimately, some might say.
Well, in theater, you get to know people kind of intimately.
Pretty intimately.
Yeah.
Let's build him a character.
Okay.
What do you want your character to be called, Corbyn? What's his name? Or her name? Or their name?
Does it have to have like a bunch of consonants with no vowels in between?
That's up to you.
Yeah. Only consonants, and then the vowels are like with diacritics, like Tolkien, right? Little squiggles. And
you guys are going to learn. I don't have any imagination.
Okay. I know that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I want my. It can be a guy or a girl.
Be whatever you want to be.
Let's make you we have to make him a D&D character.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could make you a Star Wars character.
You can make a Star Wars character, yeah. Tabletop.
But you know what? That was my favorite character. We played a Star Wars game, and I played a Toydarian. You know the little floaty guy?
Yeah.
He was the captain of...
Mind tricks don't work on me.
Yeah, your Jedi magic don't work on me. No way. And he was the captain of the ship. And they always tried to they brought in this Siberian tiger-like creature that he was always pissed off about because he's going to shit all over my ship. It was great fun.
All right, yeah, let's do Star Wars.
Okay, I'm gonna steal something from Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country.
Okay, let's do it. Since you're so obsessed
with the planet's name. My character's name will be Praxis.
Okay,
I like it.
So Star Wars world universe.
Yeah. Okay.
What kind of job do you want? Like, what would you do? From Jedi to scoundrel to cook to Empire to.
I like scum and villainy.
Okay.
So I would.
Would you be like the penis head? You know the guy from the first movie where they go to Mos Eisley Spaceport?
Yeah,
penis head, like with the blacks. His head looks like a big uncircumcised penis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Penis Head. No, I don't want to be that. Yeah. I don't want to be Penis Head. But I'll tell you what I do want.
It's a good name.
I want to be a bounty hunter.
A bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Bounty hunter. That could work. Definitely. And do you picture this guy as like brutish or as sort of dexterous?
No, the exact opposite. I want him to be exactly like me, where he has no strength whatsoever.
Okay.
Has a little bit of a round middle.
Yeah.
But for some reason is incredibly deadly.
Okay.
Looks very unthreatening.
Is he cunning?
Oh yeah, that's half the battle.
Okay.
Right there, yeah.
So his cunning is okay. So he would have very high intelligence then.
Very high intelligence.
Right. Low strength.
Low strength.
Is he dexterous though? Like, can he move faster than you think he would?
Oh, you know what? It might be being true to myself.
What about short bursts? Not a long distance runner, but
Yeah, not a long distance runner. I would say like he what he's good at is he sees a situation and he plans it out in his head.
Oh, okay.
And
So a
execute.
tactician.
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
be
so-
Can I do that? Is that allowed?
Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it depends on the rule system, right?
But
there's
very short
there's
bursts.
several Star Wars rule systems.
Yeah.
And then you can play things like, a savvy Jedi or a brutish Jedi.
Yeah, are you charismatic?
Yeah. Are you you're kind of dumpy?
Could you
but-
talk your way out of something if you're not a fighter?
No, but I talk my way into things.
So you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
So set up the asshole trait.
So not charismatic.
What
Gives you-
is the asshole trait called in D&D?
Charisma.
I like that.
Yeah.
I want charisma. I want Riz.
Well, I mean, so
me
there's
Riz.
charisma there's charisma that comes from good looks,
Oh, I don't have that.
right?
No.
And there's charisma that comes from just being able to talk your way through stuff.
Yeah, talk my way specifically into bad things.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like I want to be a part. Like I see just
Now,
bad
that
things
would be
happening. I
more-
want to be a part of that.
That would be more like the way you play your character.
Okay.
So you'd have like a general characteristic like
Okay.
smooth talking
Okay,
or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then you'd play your character as being a jerk when it comes to getting out of things or freezing up when it's time to get out of the situation.
Side note: have you guys ever played a game and you're like, "Listen, we got to stop the game for a second. Your character is too much of an asshole, and we don't want
That
to play with him
happens
anymore."
all the
Yeah,
time.
that happens
Yeah?
all the time.
Yeah,
that's-
so-
you basically described D&D.
Well, what happens is there used to be this thing in
there a
D&D.
safe word?
It actually has gone away from D&D. It used to be alignment. So you'd choose an alignment. You'd be either neutral evil or chaotic good. So chaotic good, for example, would be you're generally a good person,
Yeah.
but you're not much on rules.
Yeah.
You don't really care whether it's
I'm
whether
good.
it's lawful to do this thing in this country, but I want to do the right thing even if it's unlawful.
Yeah. I want
Right.
to be good, but I want to be like bad at it.
Okay.
Is that cool?
So yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
But so,
am I
in
putting too
answer
much
to
of
your
my character?
question,
No,
though,
that's good.
you have people who, my character alignment is lawful evil. That's
Lawful
why I'm being an asshole.
Okay.
Like, nobody's enjoying you being
That's
an
how my-
asshole.
that's what
so
my
just
character
stop it.
would do.
What's the worst character you were playing with?
Worst character I've ever played with?
Yeah.
You mean like someone else at the table?
Like who when he was in character? Like what? You're like, hey, Jason, stop it.
yeah, I can't think of specific people, but that feeling stays with you. Where whereas somebody at the table is just being like,
you remember
as
what
a person, is being an asshole.
Okay, and it's not the
and trying to
character?
justify it
Oh.
that their character is this way.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like the party's trying to get out of this place, and there's a shiny on the table, and everybody knows that if you grab the shiny, the place is going to come falling down.
Yeah.
He does it anyway
Yeah.
because I want the shiny, and then he jumps out the window and leaves you all to die. Yeah, well, my character would do that. That's just being an asshole.
that's just
It's
being an
an
asshole.
Does
asshole,
it
right?
prematurely end the game for everybody when something like that happens?
Well, I mean, the game, as in any hobby, is about having fun.
Right.
And if your fun ruins it for everyone else,
That's not fun.
well, then maybe you're in the wrong place.
You're so wise. He's a professor, you know.
He talks like that.
I think that's pretty basic, isn't it? Don't be an
Yeah, just-
asshole.
yeah,
I
just-
don't think you
just
have
don't
to be a
be an asshole.
professor
Yeah.
to know to not be an asshole.
So we have Praxis the Well-Endowed, Bounty Hunter, Fat.
Well endowed.
Well endowed. Did I say that?
Yeah, that's what
He's
I
got
wrote
like
down.
big boobs. I think. Of
Yeah,
big
Praxis
boobs.
the Well-Endowed. No?
So does he have like man boobs, or is he?
No, I mean, doesn't boobs
Well,
don't
of
have
course.
to necessarily mean endowed. It can mean other things.
Okay, well, I just think well endowed boobs.
Oh.
Maybe that's just my.
That's your lens.
Yeah, maybe that's. I'm just showing through here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be. You said you were fat, so you can have big boobs.
No. I said I had a little bit of a.
I wrote
middle.
fat on your thing, so
Oh wow. Okay.
Porky Praxis. Maybe that's what the
You know
other
what? My
party members
character's
call
offended.
it. Porky.
old Porky Praxis.
My character's offended.
Good. See, now you're getting it.
Now you're
That is
playing.
the idea,
Now you're
Corbyn.
playing tabletop.
Yeah. So yeah. And so that's another thing. Like when you're playing on the tabletop, you can play like my character is offended,
Yeah.
or you go, I'm offended.
Oh.
Don't talk to me
I
like
would
that.
hate to play with that guy. The offended guy? Fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
But see, I would intentionally play that guy just to make you mad, Corbin.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd be that guy?
Hey, I'm offended you would ask me that.
Okay, wait.
I'm offended that you're offended
Yeah,
I'm
see,
offended.
real
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
Yeah.
What kind of weapon would you use? What kind of weapon would
Good
Praxis
question.
use?
Or would he use weapons?
Or yeah,
You know
Or would he just have like a toolkit or something?
tongue is his only weapon.
I love that. He's like a frog dude with a.
Oh, nah.
That's pretty good.
That was a good. That was a really good tongue sound.
No, my guy's humanoid.
You could be frog
Could be
humanoid.
frog humanoid, yeah.
Frogamoid.
You know, I kind of dig. Like, don't put frog in there. He's not a frog.
I wrote human. I assume you meant
okay,
human
okay.
when you said
All
humanoid.
right.
I don't want my character to be a frog.
Yeah,
Man, I got into it for a sec there.
yeah. It doesn't take much.
No, like I want a 5-inch, 6-inch blade. That's what I want.
Oh,
Blade?
Really?
Is that what you
Blade,
said? Okay.
singular.
Sorry, 6-inch
okay.
blade.
Yeah.
6
But like a
inches.
really big 6 inches.
like
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's
rigid, thick blade.
turgid
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
inches.
Throbbing 6 inches.
Throbbing
of a blade.
6 inches
Got it.
of
Yep.
death.
Got it.
Yep.
And
You
pleasure.
could just whip it out at any time.
That's
Yeah.
right. In fact, I don't even put it away.
Do you
I
tip
just
it?
carry it around
Do you
with-
do you put things on the tip of the blade? Like a poison? Do you poison your blade?
Are you a poisony kind? I guess poisony's pretty douchey.
Do you put things on the tip of your blade?
No, I want to have bragging rights.
Okay. So
The character wants to be like
a clean tip.
Yeah.
Is he
clean
is
tip.
he quick tempered though?
No, because he's tactical, so he's not
Okay.
quick tempered.
Okay. All right. So he's got a big knife. Does he have like a?
But he
a
celebrates when he
shooting-
wins.
Does he have a slug thrower? of
Long
some
range?
kind?
Does he have a long range weapon?
I mean, he doesn't even have to build him as fighty. We're just bringing that up
Yeah.
because
Oh.
Just to talk
you
about.
might get
Yeah.
into fighty situations, but you might like my Toydarian guy was basically couldn't kill anything.
Yeah. You just
His job was not to kill stuff; it was to make stuff work.
yeah. The
Right?
sorcerer
He was a-
I'm playing
he
right
was
now
super
can't
mechanic
swim or,
dude, right?
Really? That's so
Whatever it was,
weird.
he was
Yeah.
like,
I find that
"Get us in here, man!
I
All
find
right,
that
I got this."
interesting.
I like playing a character who has way more problems with them than like being bad at things than being good at things is more fun for me. So like I said, my sorcerer can't swim, he can't ride a horse, he can't.
It's good to have flaws.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's just-
Like,
it's
if you're
more
good
fun
at
to play.
everything- Like I get that some people like, let's say your life is super boring, you're in this job that just sucks, and this you see with players too, where in their personal life they might just lead quite a boring life. So when
Yeah.
they're playing a character, they're playing this outlandish, heroic, crazy character.
Yeah.
because it's a release, right? It's like,
My guy does it for the money. He doesn't give a fuck.
yeah,
Can you
okay.
put it in there? He doesn't give a fuck.
Okay.
I want
So
my
he
character to be
has
For the
that.
money.
For the
Apathy?
money. Yeah,
Does
he
he-
has radical apathy, please.
And does he care what other people think?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
I'm basically describing me, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is just Corbyn.
But that's a good start, actually.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great place
For
to
my
start
first
when you-
character.
Yeah,
I got to go by what I know.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to play.
Because when I listen to you and you say the mechanic thing, I'm like, I never would have thought of being, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't occur to me.
What do you mean about charisma?
To build a mechanic who's good at fixing things,
Yeah.
but is good at, that wouldn't even occur to me.
Would Praxis
Praxis.
Oh yeah, direct. Would Praxis have a vessel of some kind, a ship, a speeder bike? How do
We're
they
not
get around?
talking about like, do you have a goblet?
Yes,
But do
a,
you have-
a vassal.
Yeah. I'm in Star Wars, so I'm going to have something, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
don't-
not necessarily.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you might.
What if I
could be-
hitchhike?
you
Maybe
could
you
be-
lost it all. Yeah. You just hitchhike.
Totally.
That's how you get around.
Like you get around on.
What if I'm incredibly cheap?
Oh, I love it.
I'm incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
So the money I get, I'm like, I'm keeping this money, and
Yeah.
I'm going to hitchhike everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
and
my
you
plan.
come in on like shitty freighters and this kind of thing.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great line.
And you're
Yeah.
like you're willing, and you're so cheap. You're willing to like sit in the cargo bay and freeze your balls
Yeah.
off in the cargo bay.
You think
just to
I'm going to
not
pay
pay-
12 credits to go sit up there with the fucking rich people when I could sit here for 2? Are you fucking crazy?
What am I, an asshole?
What do you think I am? Something smells in here.
So what does Praxis spend their money on?
Ladies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. And food. Like nice meals.
Does he have like exotic tastes?
Baby,
Like he eats the
this is
sort of
not
the-
real
the
life when I say
eyeball
I spend my money
floating
on
in the
ladies.
green
Just so
glue.
my wife knows. This is not a real thing.
This is Corbyn.
This part is fake.
You know, eating the really disgusting
Yeah, like
floating wriggly slugs and this kind of thing in
and-
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicacies. Space
Yeah.
delicacies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has these tastes that revolt the other party members.
Which is why he has a bit of a midriff.
And I mean, we're almost there. Does Praxis have a catchphrase or something that they always say or do, like or a tattoo, something that sticks out for them?
Yeah, suck it, fuckers. That's what I'm going to say every
I
time.
like a suck it fuckers.
Every time I beat somebody, it's going to be suck it, fuckers.
No, it's gonna be a suck it fuckers.
Suck it, fuckers.
Yeah. Hey, we just built a character.
We totally built a character.
Did I do
And
it?
then you just
Yeah.
assign some stats to it.
Yeah, you put some numbers in there.
points or
Can you
something.
keep that on file?
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll keep it on
and
file.
then when
That
you
could
invite
be
me
a
over,
fun-
I can be Praxis.
You're gonna be
again.
Praxis, yeah.
And then if it's a dragon game, I'll just be Dragon Vet Praxis.
yeah.
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 I'll
I
even
think it was
call
well
it
done.
Dragon Praxis.
Yeah, that could work in.
That's how much fun it can be.
Any scenario that you could do that.
Yeah,
high
Praxis
fantasy
can come
too.
for anything now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Praxis exists.
Yeah.
Well done.
Did you put apathy in like big letters? Like
I literally wrote
apathetic
radical
about-
apathy,
literally?
please.
Like this is where I might suck as a game player because you'd
Yeah.
be like, "Hey guys, let's do this collective goal," and I'll be like, I can't be bothered."
The one thing I will always tell players when we play is because a surprisingly a lot of people will end up being apathetic, especially at the early outset. So to combat that, the one kind of rule I like to play on my table is that there is either a reason that already connects you to someone else at this table, whether that be a familiar or past experience, or B, why there has to be a reason for you to work with these people. Because you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to play a lawful evil character, and I'm going to be edgy and cool, and I'm going to stab anyone. It's like, why the fuck are you with an adventuring party then? Because you wouldn't be if you're that character. So there has to be a
These games, you start with an adventuring party.
Generally speaking, like in the opening section, the first couple games, you meet all the other characters, the other players, kind of thing.
It's like an episode one.
How does an apathetic character?
Well, that's the thing.
That's hard.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be, but you'd have to have something. You'd have to have some kind of hook in your character. Like even if it's just money.
Yeah.
Money's if you just see an opportunity, like they're all going to Coruscant to free so and so, and you're like, Coruscant, eh?
Man,
Wait,
I could hitchhike there.
Yeah, I could ride in your.
I know a guy.
You're going there anyway.
Yeah. I know a guy.
Yeah.
Right? Or it so happens that you're actually they don't actually meet you. They find you in the bay.
Yeah.
In the storage bay when they're jumped to light speed and you're in the storage bay, so that you're there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they're like, fuck, what do we do with this guy?
What do this guy?
And then it turns out that they need to get to this whatever they're doing with their noble mission, and you happen to know a guy.
Yeah.
Right, and so you kind of get sucked into their story, not because you want to help them, but you think this guy could,
or maybe this guy wronged you, and you always wanted him out of the picture.
Or their goal is to get into X building, and you know that if you get into X building, you will have access to X data that you could then sell on.
I was just going to say, I want to have like a magic key,
a magic key.
It's like a space key that like opens stuff.
Yeah, you could have it'd be like
Would I be cheating if I had a space key?
Well, not really. I mean, it wouldn't be automatic, but it would probably greatly improve your skills.
I want to greatly
your
improve
hacking type skills, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like, how R2-D2 is like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Stuff,
I was thinking like R2.
So in Star Wars, they're called slicers.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like a character who can do what R2 does is called a slicer.
Brought to you by sex. Once again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this episode brought to you by sex.
Slice it up.
Da-da-da-da-da-da, I'm married. Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, Praxis, you can take it, whether you're playing D&D, Star Wars, it doesn't matter. You can play this guy in the Call of Cthulhu if you wanted to.
Is this a long con that you're doing with me right now? Like, are you setting me up to do this, to rope me into a game?
I certainly hope so.
So, Brent, tell us about your start in theater. How did it start?
Wow. That's conversational whiplash. I need some cream.
Yeah.
I need some cream for that. It's like, oh my God. I did my first show. Oh, actually, you know what really caught me was when I was probably like 7 or 8, I did this coloring contest at the library, the public library.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what I was coloring. It was some guy, on a picture. And I colored it and I submitted it and I won the contest.
Nice.
And it was tickets to go see Rumpelstiltskin at the local high school.
Okay.
And I was just taken in. Like, I just was just fascinated. I was just like, oh my God. And they took me backstage and showed me how they did all like the weird smoke things and how they made the gold glow for Rumpelstiltskin and stuff. And they showed me the costumes and I was just like, oh, this is so amazing. And then in high school, I designed a couple. So I played Mr. Sourberry in Oliver, Mr. Sourberry, the Undertaker. And then I also designed that set, which was like a sort of just like a silhouette of like a Victorian.
And how old would you have been?
I would have been like 17.
Okay.
Something like that. 16, 17. And then I designed a couple sets for high school plays. I don't know why. I was pretty good in art.
Yeah.
So I got asked and I did it. And then I didn't really do, and then when Nita, I didn't do any theater from then on until I was in my undergrad in the early 90s at Guelph. And then when Nita started her theater degree, and then I started becoming involved in theater again. And then we did some shows kind of with her in Ottawa later years. And then here in Lethbridge, we started getting involved with, hat tricks early on, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
My first show was Evil Dead the Musical. And that was...
Did you design the set for that one?
Yeah.
And what was the difference between that one and the second one that you did?
So it was quite similar, like in terms of the basic structure, like doors, windows kind of thing. This was a much better set in the sense that the other set just stopped at the top, like 8-foot walls, and it just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas here we built these kind of skeletal rafters coming in. The trapdoor was way better because when we first did it, it was literally, we did the show on the floor of the theater.
Oh, okay.
So the trapdoor had to be like this angled thing so that you would go down into it, but then you couldn't actually go down into it. You just kind of went down and kind of crouched down and disappeared kind of thing. Whereas with our production, we actually had the stage raised, so you actually went down.
How'd you do the trapdoor on that one? Because you use risers. So how'd you get the trapdoor in there?
Well, the trapdoor was basically, the edge of the trapdoor was built quite high off of the floor, and then you literally, how you see these comedy actors fake like they're walking downstairs?
Yeah.
We literally had the actors doing that as they were walking in, and they would crouch down, and the door would close behind them.
Oh, okay.
So it was a bit lame.
But you didn't notice it.
Not really.
Yeah, you didn't notice it.
Yeah.
I thought there were stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry to hijack that conversation there.
No, that's okay.
That's
So
it.
anyway,
That's
so
what
I did.
interview
So
does.
then I worked with this theater companies. We did like Avenue Q and what else did we do? We did a Little Shop of Horrors. We did Spam-A-Lot. We did a bunch of shows. It was fun. And then I did some shows with Playgoers. I actually acted in a show with Playgoers with Noises Off.
I love Noises Off.
I played the real estate agent who takes girls to the to his real estate places.
Christopher Reeve, if you're watching the
tries
movie.
to shag him. I love that show.
No.
I had this.
Was that Christopher Reeve? No, that was John Ritter's character in the movie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I had, like John Ritter, I had this big pratfall falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
And I had designed the set as well, right? So they bought the set, which was a big spinner. Like Noises Off, you need the whole set to spin, right? So you see front and back of the set.
Yeah.
But then, it was quite ugly what they had purchased. So I went and painted the whole thing. And then I created the stairs. And I made a breakaways thing on the stairs so that each night when I fell down the stairs,
kick it off.
I would break it off with my arm and then roll over and fall on the grate. And all the actors would be like, "Oh shit, he killed himself tonight," But it was a lot of fun. It was great. I think I'd like to act again. It'd be fun.
What has been your favorite role?
Acting?
Yeah.
I've only acted in 2 roles: Mr. Sourberry and Oliver in high school, and Noises Off.
And?
Noises Off.
That's it.
Obviously.
Which was your favorite?
Oh, Noises Off.
Oh, okay.
I think because Mr. Sourberry was one of those. It was exciting.
Yeah.
Right. Did that in high school, but yeah.
I didn't have a question.
You didn't have a question?
No, I was just going with you guys.
You had your body, that movement, that
Yeah.
thing? Okay.
Every time I get the limp dick microphone,
Yeah.
flops over on me.
Yeah.
Totally flaccid over there.
hate it.
Brought to you by sex
Brought to you by sex, ladies and
and the
gentlemen.
flaccid microphone.
Praxis
My
the
limp
endowed.
dick
What?
microphone.
Praxis the flat.
Here,
Praxis
I'll-
the flaccid.
Here, I can ask that question.
Which one?
He's doing the
literal highlighted question.
What is a lesson you learned about drama and theater that you use in your everyday life?
Oh,
That's a good question, Corbin.
well, original. Yeah, it didn't even feel like you were reading it.
I read that.
Oh, geez, that's a tough question. Maybe it isn't.
Hey, sometimes we bring the heat. We bring the heat in this show sometimes.
That is.
Don't mind the sound.
Squeak, creak. It's okay. Wow.
The microphone was falling off. I'm back.
Hi.
Wow.
Oh, hi.
There we go.
very professional. I'm glad I'm on this.
I'm not taking this out.
I'm not taking it. You have to keep it in because you put the
Do
microphone
not
up.
touch the microphone. Yeah. Well, what
Life
lesson do I take? Life lesson from theater.
Yeah. You can say nothing.
I would say don't take yourself too seriously and be kind to people.
That's fair.
I mean, it's just theater. It's kind of a similar lesson from D&D. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
There's no reason to be a dick. So,
Who was the better dancer in our last show, Corbyn or I?
That's a good question. There's a right answer here too.
a dancer. I really like the professor in his little dance with the mayor.
Yeah.
Super hot.
Yeah. Where evil is hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evil is hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tanner, I will
So
say,
very
is the better dancer. You picked it up a lot faster than me too. Like you picked it up like quick.
Yeah.
And I was very late to the I didn't put it together until we did full run-throughs of the first and second act. I was a lost.
It's tough until you do dress.
I was terrible.
And sometimes when you literally wear a dress, it's tough.
Which you did several times.
You did. Yeah. Several dresses.
Several dresses.
But you have the nicest boobs. I gotta say.
I did.
Yeah.
I
You had an impressive set.
I'm not confirming that I took them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you take?
I can't confirm anything.
I have the cigar.
Yeah?
Yeah. I said I'm keeping this cigar. Actually, I said, Patty, I want to take. Patty, yeah, I want to take this cigar. She goes, you can have it.
Would Praxis have a cigar?
Uh,
Or like an old one that he
Or
doesn't want
maybe
to buy
he
a
has
new
like some weird little hookah thing.
one. Yeah.
yeah, like a something.
Would he use a cigar?
Maybe something.
Does Praxis have an oral fixation?
Okay, I don't know yet.
Okay.
These are two hard questions. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know I do.
We want to talk about your teaching career for a sec. So I don't think we touched on it, but what do you teach? When did you start? And when are you done?
I don't know when I'm done. When I retire, I guess. So I teach Spanish, and I kind of came to it almost by happenstance. So I went to when I got out of high school, I went to Brazil for a year, and worked in Brazil. I was like a jack of all trades on an elementary school project, digging wells, fixing things. I was 19 years old, and it was an incredible eye-opening experience for me, right? I'm in southern Brazil at the end of this dirt road. I'd just come, white kid from middle class, Vancouver area, never been outside of my hometown kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was an incredible experience. And so I came back from that, and I'm 19, so super idealist. I'm going to save the world,
Did you?
No. Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
You
it's
did.
already been saved, by the way. Yeah, it's done. That's why I
You didn't see the statue?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a statue.
So I got back and I wanted to learn, I'd learned Portuguese because they speak Portuguese in Brazil, and sing with it, close your throat at the end. So you say it with me, sing.
Sing.
Yeah, kind of like sing.
Sing.
Yeah. Anyway, they have a lot of nasal sounds in Spanish or in Portuguese. Anyways, but I wanted to learn Portuguese well. I learned as much as I could in a year.
Yeah.
But nobody was teaching Portuguese, and I was going to start my undergrad, in international development, which was a program at the University of Guelph at that time. It still is there, but it's changed a lot. And it's kind of this program where you're learning about the third world, for lack of a better word. There's no really good words for it. People now call it like global south or whatever you want to call
Is
it.
there a fourth world yet? Is it just the three?
Just the people who...
What is a second world?
Just
So
the
second
people
world's
who...
communism. So first world, capitalism. Second world, sort of command economy capitalism.
Okay.
And then third world was something that was suggested in a sense by India and some other nations that were developing, that there's a third way that doesn't have to be right or left. That doesn't have to be all capitalist, all communist. There's some balance that we can strike as developing nations. But even the notion of developing is problematic. Anyways, the point is, I took this undergrad, and it's a mix of anthropology and economics and poli-sci and all kinds of things. Because you're sort of saying, why? How did this happen? Why are
Big picture.
northern countries richer than southern countries? There's lots of colonialism and all these kinds of things. Anyways, I had to take a minor as part of my undergrad, and Spanish was like an obvious choice, right?
Yeah.
And you had to, and when you took this degree in international development, you had to sort of choose a region. So, and I chose Latin America because I'd just gotten back from Brazil. And so taking Spanish just seemed like the rational thing to do. If I was studying Africa, I might take French or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I took Spanish, and I enjoyed my minor more than my major. And I did really well. And I got almost a double major. I excelled in Spanish. And I actually started even teaching labs and that kind of thing when I was in my undergrad. Anyways, and then Juanita was still working on her degree when I graduated. And so I got into construction just to sort of, keep money on the table kind of thing. And then so 2 years into that, I stepped off the back of a house and broke my left leg, tib fib, smashed up my leg. And I was like, I got to get out of this, right? So I decided to go on and do a master's in Spanish. Just kind of, I was tossing around like, where do I go from this? I don't want to stay in construction. It's not a bad thing, but it's a young man's game. So I got into a master's in Spanish, and that's where I discovered 17th century Spanish theater. And I just I already did some literature when I was in my undergrad. And then this just it's amazing. It's so
This was your 2018 D&D game.
Well, it was really cool. It was just I just really enjoyed it. And then I thought, I can do this.
So for those of us who have read Clifford the Big Red Dog, very quickly describe elevator pitch of 15th century.
17th century. Yeah, 17th
Spanish
century. So it's basically the sort of Spanish equivalent of Shakespeare. Right. So you've got commercial theater, just like Shakespeare. He's in Elizabethan England, roughly the same time. And he's creating commercial theater for Joe Blows on the street. Right. And that's what was going on in Spain. But it was so much more productive in the sense that Shakespeare wrote maybe 40 plays in his life that we know of. Well, the guy who kind of sets the tone for Spanish theater of that period, Lope de Vega, wrote probably close to 800.
Yeah, see, I don't know why Shakespeare gets all the bill sucked.
Insane. Like, the guy was friggin' insane. He must have been impossible to be around. But those plays, but it was, everybody went. So everybody went to these shows. It was in, it wasn't really in a theater, and what the way we think of it, it was like a courtyard, like a U-shaped courtyard.
Yeah.
You'd set up a stage at the far end, and then eventually they close off the back end of it onto the street, and so that they can actually get people to pay to watch these shows, to make some money off it. And this goes on basically from about the beginning of the 17th century to about 1680 or so. And every day there's new shows going on in Spain.
Wow.
And so that we're talking like thousands of plays. Now, not all of them are good.
Yeah.
But even if you say let's say Lope de Vega writes 800 plays. Let's say 10% of them are good.
Yeah. That's still double what Shakespeare wrote.
Double Shakespeare. Right? So these people are incredibly productive. Anyways, so it's super interesting, from the themes and the what's going on. I learned about staging. Actually, that's what my focus was how did they stage these shows in the 17th century? And so I was coming at theater then from a academic perspective as opposed to doing theater. But because I had done theater, I was interested in how did they do theater at the time, right? So that's kind of what I focused on. And then I went on and did a PhD in Ottawa. And there I focused on, I actually edited a play. So the play was written probably sometime in the 1630s. So this was my doctoral thesis. We don't know the exact date. But so I literally had to go find all the old witnesses of the play, meaning old texts of the play, figure out how are they connected to one another by comparing them, and then find which one is the oldest. Which one is
all in Spanish?
All in Spanish, all in 17th century Spanish, which is like Shakespearean English. It's kind of old-fashioned-y, and to use a technical term. And so I had to compare all these texts and then find the one that was closest to the author's original. And of course, we don't know, but make very educated guesses based on that research.
Yeah.
And then so I choose the text as my base text, and then I use the other existing text to fill in any blanks, because sometimes what would happen in those days is you'd write a text and you'd sell it. you wouldn't sell it to be published. You'd sell it to an actor director of a company, and they could do whatever the hell they wanted with it. There was no such thing as copyright, nothing. So you'd sell it, and then they'd play it for a while in a city, and then it would get tired, and they'd sell it off to some other guy, and he'd play it to death in another city, and he'd sell it on to another guy. And meanwhile, they're adding, taking away, doing whatever they want. Or they're just copying it, and every time you copy it, there's an error, there's a missing line because you...
So this is a crazy undertaking that you did.
Yeah, it's very meticulous, kind of like detective, like textual detective work kind of thing. And then so I kind of reconstruct the text, right, as close as I can. It's kind of hypothetical because we don't have the author's original. We have all these other texts.
Was it that guy you mentioned earlier?
No, this is Calderón de la Barca. He's another...
I was going to say, that would have been awesome if
Obviously.
you spent all this time, and then once you got it done, you're like, man, this is like the worst one ever. Like, it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, man, this is one of the shitty
play
ones.
sucks. I just spent 4 years on this piece of shit play.
Well, he's waiting for some guy in a fucking bunch best.
And then once the text is kind of recovered,
it was all a dream.
It's kind of like taking, you see these old paintings from the Renaissance, and they sort of clean them up because there's like smoke and soot and stuff that's got on the painting.
Yeah.
And so my job is, as a textual restorer, is kind of like that, trying to take off the
bullshit,
the grime and the bullshit of copying and copies of copies of copies of copies. And then once that's done, you annotate. So because the text is still from the 17th century. And so let's say from 400 years ago, 400 years from now, somebody hears you say, well, I just saw the Backstreet Boys.
All right.
What the heck, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, not a clue. And
I think they'll last that long.
I'm saying hopefully in 400 years.
No, they'll last that long. They'll last that long.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
But the point is,
Backstreet's back.
Right? So there'll be references in a 400-year-old text that the modern audience is like, huh?
Yeah.
Most of it is comprehensible. It's a human drama, it makes sense. But some of these references don't make any sense to modern audience. So that's my job, is to annotate. And so that was my doctoral thesis. And then out of my doctoral thesis, meanwhile, I was teaching as an undergrad or as a graduate student.
Yeah.
And then I got this job here in Lethbridge. And then I've been teaching here ever since. And so I teach everything from like introductory Spanish to history, and literature, and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun.
Super cool.
I always say I get paid to be overly curious and talk too much.
That's a pretty cool story, though.
Sounds like a lot of work.
But it wasn't planned. You know what I mean? Like I
just
had
it's
planned
how you
to save
rolled
the
into
world.
it. Yeah.
Going
you're
to
still
the
you're still
third
around.
world. I'm still around.
There's still a world, so your job could be coming.
Okay, can you tell me what getting a tenure is, and like explain that as like a big deal?
Okay.
What is that?
So tenure is basically kind of a job security, I suppose. But the point is that academics need, if you really want academia to thrive and you really want knowledge to thrive, you can't have professors being careful about what they say because they might offend the board of governors or somebody in town or whatever. They have to be able to speak the truth and say what their research produces, whether or not it's politically correct. Now, and so tenure basically protects you from being fired for just saying something that upsets somebody. Now, the truth is that if you break the law, you're not protected by tenure.
Yeah.
And in many cases, even some things are like crossing the line. So if you start writing some anti-Semitic diatribe, questioning whether the Holocaust occurred,
Then your credibility shot.
your credibility is going to go down the tubes, and the university might find every means possible to fire you.
Yeah. If not, stick you in a library somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are still lines you would have to be careful about crossing. But that's in its sense.
But
That's what tenure's about.
But if you did research and you said something based on your research, and you go, no, here, look at this.
Here is the
research.
evidence. Yeah.
Then what can they say?
Well, because it's unpopular, they could fire you unless you have tenure.
Yeah.
So that's what tenure's for.
Gotcha.
And how do you get tenure?
By proving that you have, as a researcher, as an academic, you've demonstrated your abilities as a teacher. And a lot of people think of professors just as teachers, but that's only 40% of what we do. 40% of it is research. That's generating knowledge, not giving knowledge, but generating knowledge is what we do. And so you have to also show that you have been productive from a research perspective. And that can turn into a bit of a trap, especially in the US. It's really sort of publish or die kind of thing. Like you just publish stuff, lots of stuff, so that you can get tenure, right? And that's not necessarily good for knowledge, right? Just to get as much like quantity over quality kind of thing, because the people who are judging your research are often not necessarily qualified to judge your research.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right. So there'll be a committee at the university that's judging my research. And they're like sociologists and an anthropologist and a guy from who knows what. But what do they know about
Tim?
What do they know about 17th century Spanish? Right? How are they going to judge my work? Well,
Can they dictate what topics you expand your knowledge on?
No, not really. I mean,
Like they're paying you a paycheck and they're like, Dr.
research
Bankman,
this.
Can you
Well,
explain?
that is another thing, is that research at universities is essentially, I mean, theoretically, guided by the curiosity of the professors, of the researchers.
Yeah.
Right? Now, whether or not it is producing, making it easier to produce X number of widgets for an industrial program, which could make the university money if they were to patent it, well, that shouldn't be what governs what you research necessarily.
Right.
Right? That's not the goal of a university.
Right.
To just make money.
But that it might be something that has to be
But
dealt with.
if you want to bring in money from like research foundations and that sort of thing, well, you might cater your research to whatever the current agenda is. Like if you have research, for example, on climate science, right? You might be more likely to get research money than if you're studying postcards, French postcards from the 19th century.
So what are you studying?
So I am currently working on a...
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers. It's a fencing treatise. This is going to lead into one of your other questions, but I think it's a fencing treatise that's published in 1580. I could say it's a fencing treatise. It's a treatise on using the sword in aggression and defense. And it's a treatise that establishes the sort of Spanish fencing style that goes on to dominate the Hispanic world and also parts of Europe for like 300 years. But as I discovered, I discovered it just by happenstance, actually, through doing annotations for this other work. I saw these references to this person, Carranza. Well, who's this? You're like a Carranza. Well, what the hell does that mean, right? So I looked it up, and turned out that people thought of this guy, Carranza, as the sword fighter, the guy, right? So you could use his name as a compliment, right? You're a Muhammad Ali, this kind of thing.
That's a boxer, Corbyn.
Oh, okay.
The sports guy.
And anyways, but it turns out this thing is 3/4 philosophy. Like he's talking about, like he's writing obviously in the 16th century. So he's writing, the Spanish nobility is coming off of a 700 years of war with the Moors. They've just expelled the Moors from southern Spain. And Spain has been at war for 700 years. It's a martial culture. But that's over. And now Spain has discovered the New World. Spain is kind of reinventing itself, and the nobility are reinventing themselves as bureaucrats. So what role then does martial culture play in this? And so this author's kind of navigating that. So does nobility still have privileged place? Like on what basis do we have any privilege? And then what is the role of violence? Like when is it okay to kill somebody?
When you're getting paid. That's my character. It's my character.
Oh, Praxis showing up, everybody.
Praxis showing
up.
That's good. It's role playing. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's thinking about all these things, but he's super learned. And so every single page of this thing has some reference to Demosthenes or Galen or Aristotle or Plato and so
he's using the big words because it sounds cool.
He's using the big words, and he's kind of a blowhard.
Oh.
But he is, as I initially thought, he's just a blowhard. But then I started doing the research, and it's like, yeah, he actually knows what he's talking about.
That's tough because you want to hate the blowhard, and you're like, shit, this guy's what he's doing.
How many times have you been researching things and you'd be like, I know how this ends. Like, and then you're like, oh, fuck, I got to finish this, but I know how it ends.
Yeah.
There's
I know where this is going.
World War II. Let's go to World War II.
Who's going to win this thing? Shit.
Shouldn't have based a bet. Damn it.
There are points where you get into research where it's meticulous and you have to go through a lot of chaff to get to the good stuff kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like when I was doing the editing on this other text, you have to literally compare each text line by line and try to find out where they're different. It's really boring.
Yeah.
Right? But any scientist will tell you too, like doing the lab work, drip into the 16 tubes and then spin them around. Get the grad students to do it because it's incredibly boring.
What's your go-to like music of choice when you're doing this stuff?
Oh, well, depends on what I'm doing. Like if I really have to be thinking, like kind of, evaluating, then I listen to like down tempo, like trip hop, that kind of stuff. Chill,
like lo-fi kind of
stuff. Yeah. That doesn't have lyrics. I can listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my actual musical crush, like when I want to listen to music, is Bon Iver.
Oh.
Justin Vernon. Yeah. Bon Iver. I love Bon Iver. I love Justin Vernon. He does all these collaborations with all kinds of people in the industry, and I just think he's one of these brilliant people.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
He's thinking.
I want to ask you a question, Brent.
Okay.
I think I know the answer. I think you're going to be afraid of the answer.
Okay.
So I want you to know this is a safe place.
Yeah.
Forget about the mics.
Yeah.
There's just 3 dudes sitting here.
All right.
Well, us and Corbin.
Me and
two dudes and that guy.
Two dudes in Praxis.
Yeah. Who's just in it for himself.
Who's just in it for? He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's a radical apathy, please. Is there a secret professor group that operates within universities, a la Skull and Bones?
Yeah, like the stone cutters.
I cannot answer that question.
Ah, son of a bitch. Come on, man.
Okay, I'll tell you what. If they're...
Wink once.
Yeah.
No one can see.
No one can see, so I'm going to...
If there were such an organization,
yeah,
I would have to kill you both if I were to tell you.
Promises.
I'm not saying there's a deep state, but I'm also not saying there isn't. And that deep state might be linked to university campuses. I'm not saying that either.
Right.
I'm not saying it.
Right.
If you don't know what I mean.
Would there be like
sufficient not negatives in that?
Would there not be a marking on a wall somewhere I could go look for?
If there was like some sort of like Da Vinci Code thing we could follow,
Yeah.
I'd really like that.
There are certain tunnels in certain places where certain things might be seen.
We're talking about assholes right now.
You understand that? So look at that university, and there's a dip in the middle, right? Where
Yeah.
There's a big hole.
Yeah.
What's on those other 2 sides?
God,
Do you think it just kind of goes up on those 2 sides, or do you think it keeps going straight into that hillside?
Listen, after we go off the air,
Yeah, we gotta go for a
you
walk.
could seriously give me some sort of...
No, we're not going to talk about it after there.
No,
We're
no, we're not.
Because
This is
if
nothing.
you're building on that kind of land, how deep do you go?
We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons after this.
Steam tunnels. Do you know what I'm talking about? Satanic Panic in the 1980s.
Yeah.
That was part of it. So there was this young guy, David Egbert III or something like that, who played Dungeons and Dragons, and he disappeared. And his mother didn't know where he went, so she hired a private investigator. And he started looking around. He saw that he had these books, D&D books, and he saw they had this bulletin board with all these pins on it, and he began to think that these pins were like, this private investigator thought these pins were kind of connected somehow, and he figured that they were the steam tunnels of the university where this kid was.
Oh.
And so he started searching the steam tunnels, and this starts getting on the news. And this is literally happening in the United States. And the news are getting all over this. This guy has disappeared into the steam tunnels under this university. Turns out he was at his sister's place.
Americans are so stupid, nice people.
So polite.
Anyways, so he is eventually found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then a couple months later, he kills himself.
Oh.
He has like mental issues.
He had problems. Yeah.
He had problems. He kills himself with his mother's gun.
Oh.
And she goes on a rampage. This is Patricia Pulling. And she starts Bad, a group called Bad, called Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons. And she starts going on fundamentalist shows with Pat, what's his name? Pat, the televangelist guy, Pat Robertson?
I don't remember.
Something like that. Anyways, goes on to start going on these televangelist shows talking about how evil Dungeons and Dragons is. And she gets on like 60 Minutes, this like...
Jeez.
And it gets all over North America about this kid who killed himself because of Dungeons and Dragons.
What year approximately was this?
Early 1980s.
No,
So
because
did
Mom
your
left her
mom
gun
see
out.
this?
Yeah, she saw it. But she knew... I explained it to her. It's like, this is total tripe, Mom. This is not true.
I could just see a young Brent be like, "Mother, this is obviously tripe. I don't know why."
I don't know
know why
use
this has
that
to be
words
brought
I used
towards
in
me.
those times, but
But bogus, Mom.
but it was bogus. It was incredibly dumb. And so, and she had Gary Gygax on 60 Minutes, and Gary Gygax, and he just looks like he looks terrible.
Yeah, he's
of
like, "What are you
course,
guys talking about?" Yeah,
he's like, this is nonsense. Like, what are you talking about? These are kids getting together, sitting around the table, spinning a story together. They're not casting spells. They're not.
Yeah,
he's just
because
trying to
that's stupid.
But of course, he just sounds like he's being defensive.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that it's all strung together and this created this incredible. It fed into that satanic panic.
Yeah.
And then there was these other twins, his brothers, who killed this girl somewhere else in some Oklahoma town, and they played Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So clearly, Dungeons and Dragons caused them to kill this girl, because it wasn't that they also played tennis or something, and tennis caused them to kill this girl.
Yeah.
It was just that sort of confirmation bias. It was like a giant North American echo chamber. Where the algorithm was feeding back into it. It was really quite bizarre. So,
I want Praxis to be a degenerate gambler.
A degenerate gambler?
Yeah, degenerate gambler.
Is he running from debts? That's always good.
No,
too.
not running from debts.
No?
No.
He's a good gambler.
He always wins?
No, he's always probably no. He's got not bad luck.
Okay.
He doesn't always lose, doesn't
Even
always
Steven.
win, but he never goes into debt.
But
he's
that,
just
little things like that can really be good, because
Yeah,
they can force the party, the characters into situations.
Let the DM give you more backstory options.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Because
So do you know as the DM
the GM could create this guy who's after him.
First off, is it DM or GM? What is it?
Well, DM is a D&D thing.
Okay.
Dungeon Masters. And GM, Game Master, is just used in all other game.
GM is universal.
Yeah.
Okay. Question: Does the GM or the DM know all the characters before the game starts? Like you get
not
you get an
necessarily.
email saying these are the characters that come to the table, and then you spin your story around it.
Well, it depends. Like, if you, for example, as a GM, if you want to help the characters or the players make connections with one another, you might, on sort of behind the scenes, sort of talk with the person and say, "Look, I want to create this, whatever it is, Praxis."
Good guy.
But you as a GM want to make sure that Praxis is not some outlier, but can be integrated somehow into the party. Otherwise, it'll just be like a one-off, and Praxis goes off and drinks
A
himself.
little
to
research
sleep.
doesn't hurt.
A reason to be with the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to make those connections. Otherwise, it's not collaborative anymore. It just turns into some guy going off by himself.
Yeah,
Like you have let's say a Dungeons and Dragons game, and one of the characters is a pie maker in the town.
I would never think of
And
that.
he decides that that's what I want to do. I want to make pies. So everybody goes like, "We're going to go off and save the damsel." Yeah, but I want to make pies.
I was going to say,
I got my pies to make. Yeah, but we're gonna go. But this is really important. Yeah, I know, but I got a business
Is the
here.
princess
I'm not
pies?
going.
If she's pies,
Does she
I'm not
have
going. If
pies?
she's not pies.
I'm not.
How
So
many
you
times
have a
have you-
character who just won't go anywhere because he has no adventure.
I was going to say, how many times you showed up and you're like, "God damn it, Jason, a fucking pie maker!" like
The crust is not going to cook itself. Okay.
God damn it, Jason! You always do this.
You do, yeah. You do have players who come up with these wacky characters where you're
I
not
gotta
sure.
meet
Oh
this
my god,
Jason
what am I going
guy.
to do with
Yeah.
this? Anyway, sorry, where were we?
Yeah, I don't know.
Something about
Pies? I want pie
universities,
now.
like steam tunnels.
What's your favorite pie?
My favorite pie?
Yeah.
It's rhubarb,
Oh.
but it's a specific. I think it has to be mixed with some apple or
Like
something
strawberry
else.
rhubarb
Like
or-
straight up rhubarb.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
But I love rhubarb as part
You
of
need
pies.
sweetness.
There's something
You need
about
balance.
rhubarb.
You need to
that
cut it. You need to
Because
cut
I
it with
remember as a kid, we had rhubarb in the backyard. It's, rhubarb just like grows like crazy.
invasive.
Go back there and cut it off with our, our hunting knives that we got at a garage sale or something.
Because D&D is the problem.
Yeah, yeah. So and eating that
Stock.
stock with we'd sneak into the kitchen and get like sugar.
Yeah.
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 I'm a peach pie guy. I love peach pie.
Okay.
Yeah. Love it.
A classic apple or
What do you
cherry.
even eat? Yeah.
Yeah, apple or cherry.
I have always despised cherries. I don't know why.
Oh,
Really?
I just
because they
don't like 'em.
insist upon themselves.
Maybe. And that when they put cherry in that really bright red sauce or whatever it is, like
Yeah, the bright red sauce. I feel it.
I just like gross.
Yeah.
Doesn't even
The
look
pie
doesn't even
filling
look
sauce.
natural
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Can't do it.
With a natural segue from pie.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the questions we ask everybody on this show,
And what it's about.
Brent, and the kind of the main point of our show is we want to know about your mental health journey. How did you get here, and what do you do to cope in the moments that you need it?
Well, I drove in a Chevy Trax.
Oh,
Yeah, that was my dad joke for the evening. That's how I got here.
hold on. Say it again.
Oh, God.
What?
Say the joke again.
I got here in a Chevy Trax. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm here all evening. So that was my awkward segue.
It is good. Yeah,
Mental health journey.
I don't get to use that very often.
Well, what we generally talk about is like in your work. Like, is it stressful? How do you cope in those situations?
Yeah.
There's obviously pressures for research. There's pressures from
Yeah.
students. Like,
Sure.
What do you think?
I don't actually find I find like your end of semester when there's lots of marking and stuff to do, that's stressful, but I actually find my job fulfilling. So I don't really get that stressed out by my job.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. So that isn't really a source.
I
of
applaud
stress.
you for the rare few people that find true meaning out of their
your
job.
jobs are more stressful than mine.
Well, part-time acting
Part-time
has its
acting,
own
absolutely.
ups and downs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very ups and downs.
So, I would say my job really stresses me out. And I don't have a lot of stress in my life, but that's kind of a cultivated thing, I think.
How did you get there?
That's a good question. I think so. Like I grew up in a sort of post-war Dutch Calvinist household that had a almost sort of British stiff upper lip kind of attitude. Keep calm and carry on. And I think that came from my parents, who both came through the Second World War. My mother worked in the Dutch underground, smuggling Jewish kids when she was like 15 years old. They both saw a lot of death. And so that made them really resilient people. And I think whatever happened in Canada when they came to Canada was peanuts compared to whatever they'd experienced before. And so I grew up in this, keep calm and carry on kind of family. And when my dad died when I was 13, I just kind of kept calm and carried on. I didn't see my mom openly. I mean, she grieved for a short while in a sense. I watched that. I was almost an only child at that point because, I was the youngest of 7. So most of my siblings had gone off and married and that kind of thing. So I was still home. But I didn't really, I didn't do the homework, if you will. I didn't really grieve at that time.
Yeah.
And then about a little less than 10 years ago, there was this kind of perfect storm where my wife had a sort of breast cancer scare. It did turn out to be nothing, but we didn't know that at the time. And then another friend of mine, her father was dying. And there was kind of this confluence of things that suddenly hit me. And I cried for 2 days.
A lot of that's coming back from Dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was strange. It was like this grief was just kind of sitting in the back drawer that I had tried to ignore and had ignored for years, for like 30 years. And it just kind of came out.
And did you actually
And my wife was super understanding and stuff.
Which was good.
Right. But I mean, it was strange because I tend to be a fairly calm, person who's not terribly emotional necessarily. And then to just be assaulted by grief, like this overwhelming, sobbing It was crazy.
Yeah.
Did you know right away what was bringing it on, or did it take some while to think with it and be like, "Oh, is this Dad? Is this what this is?"
No, it was Dad. Like, it was clear to me what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was like a flood that I couldn't stop.
Wow.
You know, and so that was a big sort of wake up call to see, like, you can't just push this stuff under the rug. You know, it will come back.
Yeah.
And so I guess I don't know that I became really intentional, but I became aware that if I didn't take care of myself mentally, emotionally, that I wouldn't be much good for other people. So, and a big part of my mental health journey, I think, is connections, connecting to people. And part of that, you know, when we talked earlier about doing like tabletop wargaming, that's a really important thing for me. It might seem silly, you're just pushing little plastic soldiers around, but it's men getting together. And men in their 40s and 50s can be awkward. And I've moved a lot, so I don't have those connections, community connections, you know, like high school friends and someone you've known for 30 years, but I don't have any of that anymore.
Yeah.
And so just being around the table with other men, talking, in some cases forming real friendships, in some cases just acquaintances, but that's okay too. And then the making things with my hands, you know, like having that hobby where I paint something or I make something. I grew up in a household, in a working class, you know, construction household where you make things. And my mom was crafty, was always crafting. And so making things with my hands is therapeutic for me. Right.
So you have more of a mental health journey than you thought. I mean, at first you were like, "Nah, I'm good," and now,
but like, so yeah, in a sense, you know, I can say, well, I don't have a lot of stressors in my life, but maybe one of the reasons that I don't get so stressed about work, or don't feel depressed or whatever, is that I have those things, hobbies, things that I do with other people, but also, so there's this wargaming thing.
Yeah.
There's a solitary part where I'm by myself painting. I listen to a podcast about, you know, whatever history, like I'm painting some Napoleonic guys. I'll listen to some history about Napoleon or something like that while I'm working away, and I'm shutting out work and all the other stuff, and I'm just in that zone. And then I'll, on a Friday night, play games with guys and have fun and laugh and have a beer, and that's good too, right?
Yeah.
So it's that connecting. It's both feeding the creative thing and then connecting with other people. And I'm lucky. I have a great relationship with Juanita too. You know, we actually talk through stuff. We've, from very early on, my mom's advice was, A, don't wallpaper together. And B, always have fun, right? And we did end up wallpapering together, but we took her advice, and she's like, look, these sort of things reveal things about your character when you try to do these stressful things together, right? And so we've always had this rule: never go to bed angry. If you have to stay up till 3 a.m, work it out.
And
Like
have you kept to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always have. That no matter what, we will not go to bed angry at each other.
How long have you guys been together now?
30 years. 34 years. 1990.
It's rare in either my personal development and from my parents and aunts and uncles and close family friends, to even at the work side, you know, as a part-time actor and couples and relationships, is that we come across a lot. It's refreshing for me, but you also, when you can see a couple who has been together for a long time, but you can still see, for lack of a better term, love between each other, right? And or maybe it's just because you're comfortable in each other's, that you're comfortable showing it, or whatever it is. But it's something you see right away with you two when you guys are in a room together, whether you're just talking about whatever, or simple. But and I know, Corbyn, you saw the same thing. But it's very aware, like of your guys' strength in that relationship, and it's not something I see often, and it's refreshing.
Thanks. I mean, it's something, and it's not accidental. We really try to be like, so what we call our mutual admiration society. You know, we try to find things that we admire in one another. You know, there's things that I suck at. that when
What do you suck at?
Yeah, come
Professor,
on.
what do you
Yeah.
suck at?
Name one thing.
I suck at creating food. Like I can make I can
yeah. Okay, I got a lot of questions on that
Listen
statement
to
alone.
so I can make food,
Okay.
but creating food. So like I can make soup. I can make spaghetti. I can make like a lot of Indian food. I can make sushi, but I follow the formula
Yeah.
and make the thing. Whereas when she's making food, she's like, "Yep, that's it." She sniffs it. She's like, "Yeah, that goes in there," and I'll make this combination, and I'll throw that in there. I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?"
So you're a lawful chef, and she's a chaotic chef.
Exactly.
So-
she is chaotic good.
No bullshit. Is she a good cook? Like, does it work out?
She's amazing.
Well, all right, Juanita, you heard it here
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
Brought to you
No,
by
she's amazing. There are
Radical Apathy.
I can't think actually offhand of anything that doesn't work. And this is actually our kids have inherited that too. Both of our kids are really creative makers of food, where I'm not that. And the other thing is that she sees potential. I see limitations. I think we're talking about we're going to do a thing, and I'm thinking, well, it's going to cost this. We'll need to do that, and that might or might not fit in there because, like get some patio stones. This guy has pallets of patio stones. She's like, oh, we should get these pallets of patio. Well, how big are they? How are we going to move them? Does he have a skid? Or how are we going to get them on? Do we have to get a truck? And
Yeah.
she's not thinking about that. She's thinking about the possibilities that these things represent. Or she walks into a situation and doesn't see the limits. She sees the possibilities of the situation. And that's something.
That's a really cool thing to recognize. I think my wife's probably the same with me and her, but Her and I are probably the same, me and my wife. However, I didn't think of it in those terms until you said it out loud. That's pretty cool.
Like you complement each other, right?
Yeah.
And if you focus, I mean, they can be frustrating too. Those same things can be frustrating because she's just like, go. We can do this thing. It's totally possible. I'm thinking, whoa, slow down. Like,
Yeah, but she needs you for that just as much as the other way around.
So we kind of balance each other out. And sometimes I make her mad by sort of being a naysayer, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, sometimes she drives me crazy because she's just like, go for it. We can do this. It's like, slow down. So it's not that there's no irritation. It's not like there's never tension between us.
Of course.
And there are also things like in my character where I'll do things and I think I've overcome that, 30 years on, and then I'll do it again. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that again. It's like, I'm a relatively intelligent person. Could I not stop doing that thing?
Yeah. Toilet seat.
No. Putting the toilet paper on, coming around the back.
Oh.
I know it's like sick.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
I actually don't. I'm just kidding. I never do that.
We're done. This podcast's over.
Sick fucks do that. No, it's. I'm trying to think of a thing, but I can't think of a thing right now. But there are things.
Yeah, that's good.
where
Yeah.
just
You stopped it.
Yeah, it's where you just do things over and over again that are frustrating, but both willing to forgive and don't go to sleep angry.
Yeah. Hey,
It works.
you heard it here.
Do you have another mental health question?
No.
I have one more professor question.
Go for it.
I want you to be honest with me.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Thank you very much. No, seriously, we appreciate the honesty and the openness. I got one more professor question, and I want you to be honest with me.
Smirking away across the table here.
Okay, when you're marking stuff,
Yeah.
how often does the character, how often are you like, this guy's a fucking jackass? A little bit less than
Nail
the
him?
marks. Yeah.
See ya.
Come on, be honest.
The fucking seat's
How many
coming.
times has that happened?
I don't do that. I'm sorry. In fact, I try to not even look at names. Like,
Let me
whenever possible-
question your ethics to your face. Like,
I want to know exactly. Come on, wink at me if you've done it before.
I have never done it before.
He didn't wink. Son of a bitch. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I like it.
But I mean, there have been students over the years that I thought, oh, what an asshole. We're just like childish. Like you expect students coming to university not going to have like junior high behavior.
you hope not.
And occasionally it happens and you're just like, I can't believe this. Like, I'm not your parent, Or plagiarism.
Oh,
That is really frustrating.
Oh, I believe that.
Did you recognize plagiarism right away?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Like if you have, let's say, for example, you've got an introductory Spanish student.
Sure.
And they're supposed to write something down from you. And they hand it in, and it's in perfect Spanish with like little colloquialisms, like little, like, or someone's never spoken English before. They're in their first, they've taken like 6 classes of English, and then they send you in something that says, if I were to do that on Tuesday, I would not have acquiesced to that. Like, oh, give me a break. They've run it through Google Translate or something, you know, and it's really obvious. Or I just type in their answer into Google, first 5 words, and it pops
up immediately.
Like, make an effort.
That's awesome.
Try and hide it.
And it is frustrating, and it sucks because what happens then is I have to spend time, bring that student in, make them squirm, because you want it to be a teaching moment.
Yeah.
Right. It happens. First year students, they're under a lot of stress in their first year, and they got to try it.
Yeah.
Right. So you bring them in, you make them squirm, and in most cases, they're like, "Yeah, I'm really, really sorry. I won't do that ever again." Right. And you hope that changes their behavior. But in some cases, they'll deny it, and the end result is they get basically a mark on their transcript indicating that they've cheated.
Oh.
It's like
which wrecks you.
Which can wreck you.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you been 100% confident that, like, have you ever, like, it's like a magician. If you know how 90% of the trick is done,
yeah,
but you don't know how 10% of the trick is done, you're still fooled.
There are, there's, of course, there has to be instances that
to get a check
me.
On their transcript, you got to be 100% sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where those cases where I literally type into Google, and boom, their paper comes up.
Yeah.
I print screen, and I say, I take them into the office and I say, recognize this? I mean, there's no ambiguity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are cases where there could be ambiguity. Yeah. And then you bring them in, you talk to them about it.
And you drop the fucking hammer of education.
Yeah. Hammer of education.
But I had one student who just did it like 5 or 6 times in the same course. It's just like,
you caught them every time?
yeah. And then I finally just said, I'm sorry, you have an F in the course and it's going on your transcript.
Oh, man.
Right? I mean, just like, this is a 3rd-year course. I'm like, we're in your 3rd year. There's no excuse for this. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
This isn't like, I didn't understand that I should have cited this instead of just...
Control C is... okay.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah. So you try, but I really try to be fair to students. And there's also the sense where if you have to make it clear to students that you can be buddy-buddy with students, and I don't try to maintain any sort of class distinction. I'm fine with students using my first name, that sort of thing. As long as they understand that when they hand something in to me, that just because you're buddy-buddy and we're talking in the hallway doesn't mean I'm going to give you a better mark.
Yeah.
Or a worse mark.
Oh?
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
I know I said that already. I'm going to ask.
last, ultimate last.
We're getting there.
That was the penultimate.
Oh.
Have you ever had an English first or Spanish first language student, and then you've been like at the front of the class, you're like, this fucker knows Spanish better than me?
So sorry, just a little backstory. Are you asking him if he ever had a Monica Geller come into his first year cooking class just so she could feel better about her cooking? Is that what you're asking?
I'm wondering if there's been a Spanish
Have you had a Spanish Monica Geller?
We have
come into your Spanish class and be like, try to own you.
Hey everybody, I would like to learn Spanish.
And then he just
Yo hablo español.
What if you had like a guy who speaks Spanish come in and just?
Well, is that against the rules? That's not against the rules, is it?
Well, no, they don't take language courses. So we have a system.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible they could slip through the system, but it's basically a proficiency test where we test them. Now, they could deliberately do badly on the proficiency test and then try to get into first year Spanish. Or something.
Yeah.
Right. Intro Spanish. But very quickly, you find them. Right.
Yeah.
And you basically say, look, you confront them and say, look, you're very clearly either a native speaker or you're just
Jose, you're wearing a sombrero right now.
Well, for example, you might have a student who's taken Spanish all through high school up to Spanish 30, then went on an exchange.
Yeah.
Went on someone who's gone on mission for 2 years in Guatemala, and they come back and they're going to take intro Spanish.
Well, I'm stupid. Can you take a second-year Spanish course without taking your first-year Spanish
Absolutely, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's based on your proficiency. You start at the level where you're at.
And would you kick them out of the first year so you don't have to give the free credits?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because it spoils the class.
Yeah.
Right, and the whole dynamic is ruined because, and all the other students are afraid to open their mouths.
Yeah.
Because there's Johnny Loudmouth who's answering every single question, trying to show off.
It's actually cerveza, you fucking idiot.
It's cerveza.
Cerveza, you fucking numpty.
But I have had students in my I teach upper level literature courses and stuff where I have native speaker students who are taking these courses because they're not about learning Spanish, they're about reading and writing and that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I have felt somewhat intimidated as I'm a non-native speaker.
Yeah,
I speak very well, but as a non-native speaker, I don't have a lot of idiom. If you don't grow up in a particular region, like if you were to grow up here in southern Alberta, you might pick up little idioms, little things, that turns of phrase that would be different from somebody who grows up in Kentucky, that kind of stuff, right? And so when you grow up a native speaker, you have a kind of intuition for turns of phrase and humor and these kinds of things that I will never have, right?
But you pick up on.
Yeah, I pick up on it, and I'm really interested, and I'm always learning.
Yeah.
But that's my job. That's one of the things I love about my job is I'm always learning, right?
God.
I'm paid to be curious, literally.
Yeah.
Right? Which is awesome. It's really cool.
Is your class Spanish bilingual, or are you immersion? You immerse? Is it all Spanish?
Well, at the intro Spanish level, there's a bit of English. You have to, in a sense. You could do total immersion, but the problem then is you drive too many students away.
Yeah, you don't want to do that,
right? I mean, the kids with the leather skin stick around. The few. But the rest all run away because they're just totally intimidated. So you have to. There's a line.
There's a line.
Muy caliente.
But it's fun, and I still really enjoy teaching all levels because at the intro level they're learning so fast. Their learning curve is so steep. They're excited. I often encourage them. You get to the end of the course, and I'll say something, and they're looking at me, and they're nodding, and how did you understand what I just said? Would you have understood anything that I just said 3 months ago? They're like, no, I guess not. Right? I'm learning really quickly here. Right? So it's exciting to see them learn really quickly.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad were Tanner and I's accents, our fake Spanish accents, in the play we did with you?
10 being the worst?
10 being the worst.
I would say I'd put you both at 7s.
Yeah, it was pretty
They
bad.
were pretty bad.
That's better than I thought it was going to be.
Bad.
Yeah.
I was so bad.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, you know what?
My
Room for
favorite
improvement,
part
but
was
not
when
bad.
what you did get right is New Jersey, and that was always fun.
Give me a quick New Jersey. Give me a quick one.
New Jersey.
Oh,
New
thank you so
Jersey.
much. Brent, I am really excited you came here
Yeah,
today.
this is awesome, dude.
And we still have to do that D&D game because we have to bring JV in.
And we're gonna and Praxis will be there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna bring in some type of
Did you
element
do this with
into the
JV
show.
too? Create a character? with her?
No, this is just for Praxis.
No, I don't remember that. Yeah.
So we're gonna do we're gonna do a show. We're gonna bring in an element of radical apathy. It'll be fun, I think.
Do an actual D&D show. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be really fun to do.
We'd have to mic it differently, but yeah.
We could just yell at each other.
Just
You
yell.
can get one of these center of the table mics.
That's true.
Work.
Good ball mics.
Yeah.
You have been.
Did you guys see that? Okay, really quick. Did you see that Beavis and Butthead skit this weekend?
No.
with
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling in the
On Saturday Night Live. Yeah. Holy cow! I haven't laughed so hard in a long time. Highly recommended. It's
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, Beavis and Butthead skit.
Check
this
it out.
weekend.
This though is a podcast brought to you by
Sex.
Yeah. We're all men who've done it.
And still make
Yeah.
one day.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on here. Brent.
It's been a lot of
It
fun.
has been a lot of fun. I learned a lot. You are an eloquacious gentleman, and it is shown through what's Spanish for eloquacious.
Elocuente.
Oh, muy elocuente.
What is Spanish for sesquipedalian?
I don't even know what that is in English.
That's a person who uses big words.
Oh, well, is there any...
In Spanish, it's called pedante.
Oh,
meaning pedantic.
You're a pedante.
I like it.
A pedantic person.
Is there any thing you need to plug social media wise? Anyone want to find you? Any place you want people to find you?
I'm not really. We have a Discord. If you're actually interested in wargaming
There we go.
here in Lethbridge, get onto Lethbridge Wargaming Miniatures Wargaming Discord.
On Discord, and you're there?
Yeah, we're there.
Okay, jump on. It actually is a lot of fun, even if you're coming from the D&D world or not. Both are two different games, but both are a blast to do. Corbin, what are our social medias?
We are on Apathy Podcast on Twitter /X and Facebook at Radical Apathy Podcast, and on YouTube as Tanner.
Radical Apathy Podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, all the social medias.
All the social
not
medias.
all of them.
If
you're not on Twitter.
We are on Twitter.
We are on
Oh,
X,
Apathy,
Twitters.
Apathy
At
Podcast.
Apathy Podcast.
Oh, okay.
If you like what you hear and you want to buy Corbin a coffee, you can on buymeacoffee.com. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I don't check it, to be honest. We just are happy to be here.
Clearly in it for the money.
Oh, it's just we make so much money doing this. It's crazy. It's why we don't even need to do it because we make so much
That's
money.
all Praxis wants.
That's what Praxis needs. He got the gambles.
And don't forget that none of this matters.
Yeah,
It's just all for fun.
Beautiful thing.
Okay, love you. Bye.